I died covering my squad. 6 seconds of fire, that's all they needed. 8 men to the tree line while the mortars walked toward my position. I gave them the 6. The 7th belonged to the shell that landed where I was lying. Now I'm 10 years old, in a body that isn't mine. Ribs cracked and one eye swollen shut. And there's a board on the wall of this place with 200 names carved into it. Mine sits at the very bottom, number 200, and the boys who put me here are already deciding whether to come back and finish the job. I know it's real the way you know a bad dream is real from the inside. No arguing with it. The hands are small, the wrists are thin as reeds. One eye won't open. The other shows me a low wooden ceiling, a cot, a gray blanket that smells of old blood. My blood. Somebody worked this body over with fists and boots and stopped just short of ending it, and then walked away like a man leaving a job half finished on purpose. The boy whose body this is knew that board by heart, and his memory is surfacing in mine, piece by piece. Not like a story someone's telling me, more like reaching into a pocket and finding things I didn't put there. 200 cadets of Valor Academy ranked top to bottom by exams, duels, and field trials. Every name in its place. Every place earned or inherited. His name at the very bottom, Kale. Charity case. The dead son of a dead soldier, a commoner scholarship boy, sleeping in a stone school built for the sons of lords. The ones who put him at the bottom of that board just put him on this cot. Boys like that don't leave a thing half broken if they can help it. They'll come back to see if it moved. The rest of the memory comes in pieces, and none of them are gentle. Kale was 8 when the letter came, the one that said his father had died holding a bridge on the northern line, and that the crown in its mercy would take the boy into the officers' academy on a soldier's orphan stipend. His mother cried and called it a blessing. It wasn't. In a school where a boy's rank on the board decides whether he'll command a regiment or die a lieutenant in someone else's war. A charity name is a target painted on your back. The Lord's sons wear tailored coats. Kale wore hand-downs washed thin. They ate at a high table. He ate what was left, and every one of them carried manna in the blood. That's the whole cruel joke of this world. The noble line wakes it young, throws fire and frost and force with a word, and the rest of us are furniture with a pulse. But a crossbow doesn't care about blood. 6 days ago on the range, an instructor called the line and set the cadets shooting at 50 paces. Around Kale, the young lords sprayed their bolts across the straw, careless, laughing. Sure, the ranking would sort itself out the way it always did, by name, not by hand. Kale put 3 bolts through the center ring, dead center, 3 for 3, while heirs to old houses stood there with empty quivers and targets that looked chewed. He beat them in front of everyone. A charity boy outshot the lords at the one thing that was supposed to belong to them by right. That night, 3 of them found him behind the armory. Gavin Reyes did most of the kicking, the kind of boy who needs an audience to feel real. Tobias Cord held him down, and the third one didn't touch him at all. Didn't need to. Darius Wayland, heir to the Duke of Wayland, first name on the board, number 1 out of 200. Darius stood in the dark and watched, and when Gavin got carried away and it looked like the boy might actually die, it was Darius who said, quietly, "That's enough." Not out of mercy, out of arithmetic. A dead commoner is paperwork and questions. A broken one is a lesson everyone can see. Darius understood the difference at 14. All right. I've been in worse rooms than this one. I do what I always did before a job. I take inventory. Cold, top to bottom, no feelings in it. The body's a wreck, but I run the checklist and nothing's grinding wrong. Deep inside, ribs cracked, not broken. A bad eye, not a lost one. The face swollen, but the jaw sound. The fingers all answer when I tell them to. The rules never change. Find out where you are. Find out who wants you dead. Find out what you have that they don't know about. Where I am, a fortress school that turns boys into officers and sorts them like livestock by a number carved on a wall. Who wants me dead? The boy at the top of that wall and the 2 who do his hitting for him. What I have that they don't know about. The man now living behind this 10-year-old face put more rounds through more targets than everyone in this castle will fire in their whole gilded lives, and not one of them ever needed a drop of magic to land. The door opens, and it isn't them. It's a girl, maybe 12 apron stained, a wooden bowl steaming in her hands. She stops when my open eye tracks her across the room, and for a second she looks ready to bolt. Then she doesn't. She squares up and comes in anyway, and I file that away too. Whoever this is, she's scared and she came in regardless. That's a rarer thing than courage. You're awake. She sets the bowl down beside the cot. 3 days you've been out. The masters looked at you and wrote you off. A pause. I didn't. Why? She doesn't reach for a clean answer, and I trust her more for it. Somebody had to. She peels the crusted bandage off my brow with hands that have done this too many times, on too many boys who came to her broken exactly like this. You want the truth? They bring me the charity cases when they're done with them. I've patched up 4 this year. 2 left. 1 stayed. You're the 4th. She ties the fresh cloth off. There's a range assessment this morning. Every cadet on the board, no exceptions. Miss it without leave and you drop off the roll. Expelled, no stipend. Back to whatever's left of home. Go, and they'll be there waiting for you. She doesn't say who. She doesn't have to. So here's my advice, and it's free. Stay down. Take the expulsion. Walk out the gate on your own legs while you still have them. Home is a grave and a name nobody will miss. I don't tell her that. What's your name? Mila Healer's apprentice. She frowns at me, like the question surprised her, like nobody in this body has ever asked her a thing about herself. Thanks, Mila. I put my hands under me and sit up. The room swings hard to the left. I let it swing, and then I take it back and hold it still. Here's the thing about staying down. The boy who owned this body stayed down his whole short life, kept his head low, took the hits, told himself the number on the wall would save him one day if he was just quiet enough, small enough, useful enough. It got him a cot and very nearly a coffin. I'm not going to inherit his ribs and his strategy both. There are two ways to play a first move, and I've played them both for a living. Quiet. Hide what you can do. Gather, wait, and hit later from an angle nobody's watching. 9 times out of 10, it's the right call. Yesterday in my old skin on a real contract, it's the call I make without thinking, but there's no quiet here. The weakling's already marked. A quiet Kale is just a slower kill. They've decided what he is, and the only argument that changes their minds is the one they can see. And the one card this body holds is the exact thing they beat him half to death for. A card you never show is a card that never wins a hand, so I show it. Not a little of it. All of it. First try cold in front of every person who matters. Not to survive the morning, to change what I am on that wall. From victim to problem. Victims get finished. Problems get thought about. Left alone. Worked around. Handled carefully by people who suddenly aren't sure of the math anymore. And working me out is going to take them a long, long time. Mila stares at me like I've lost what's left of my mind. You can barely stand. Then come watch me miss on purpose, I say, and take the crossbow leaning by the door, Kale's own, the cheapest issue the Academy stocks. Stock scuffed pale, string worn but still true under my thumb. It'll disappoint fewer people that way. The range is a long yard of packed dirt under a flat gray sky, straw butts standing at the 50 paces line where the cadets shoot. Past them, well past, a single iron plate hangs alone at the master line, 150 paces out, and it hangs there for one reason, to remind boys what they aren't yet. No cadet has rung it in 4 years. The instructors ring it now and then casually, just so the young lords remember there's a ceiling above them they haven't touched. 60 cadets are already formed up when I come limping in wrapped in bandages, and the yard goes quiet the way a room does when a dead man walks in on his own 2 legs. Across the yard at the officer's rail, Darius Wayland watched the small bandaged shape cross the dirt and felt something he had no name for and did not enjoy. Beside him, Gavin leaned in, grinning wide. He crawled back out. Say the word and we'll put him back down. Darius said nothing. He'd given the order to stop 3 nights ago because a corpse in the yard was a nuisance, and questions were beneath his time. Watching the boy walk now spine straight under all that cloth, he began to suspect he'd made a small, precise error in his arithmetic, and that the nuisance he'd chosen to spare was going to be the one thing money and blood couldn't buy him out of. Gavin doesn't wait for the word. He peels off the line and drifts over, all shoulders and swagger. Tobias a half step behind him. You should be in the ground, Charity. He reaches out and flicks the bandage on my head, one finger, testing whether I'll cringe away the way the old Kale always did. I don't. His grin flickers, just for a beat. Tell you what, miss the line and you're expelled. Off the roll, out the gate, gone. But ring the plate. He says it loud now, turning so half the yard can hear. Playing to them, ring the master plate and I'll carry you to the infirmary on my own back. In front of everyone. Deal? He means the iron plate. The one nobody's rung in 4 years. He's offering it as a joke out loud, so the whole range gets to laugh when I fail. That's his mistake. He handed me a target and a witness in the same breath, and he doesn't even know he did it. Then the instructor calls the line, and it isn't one of the tired drill masters. It's Corvin, Master Corvin, a field officer with a gray-streaked beard and a stillness. The older cadets go quiet around. A man whose eyes have counted a great many things and enjoyed very few of them. He looks at me, at the bandages, at the crossbow held in 2 thin hands. He says nothing at all. He just tips his chin at the 50 paces line. Shoot or don't. I don't go to the 50 paces line. I walk past it. Every step is a small, hard negotiation with the ribs, and I make each one and keep the price off my face. I stop level with the master line, turn to face the iron plate 150 paces out, and raise the cheapest crossbow in the armory in 2 hands steadier than any hands attached to this body have a right to be. The whole yard stops breathing at once. Here's what none of them know. None of these boys who were born believing the world owed them the win. Distance is just arithmetic you learn to feel in your hands. Wind is a language. You speak it or you miss. A worn string throws low, and I already know exactly how low because I read it off the draw the second I lifted the thing. My entire first life was one long conversation with the empty space between a weapon and a target. Thousands of shots in wind and rain and dark, and this, 1 bolt, 1 plate, 150 paces of dead gray morning air. This is the easiest thing anyone has asked of me since I woke up in this ruin of a body. I let the breath go slow. At the very bottom of it, in the still place where the heartbeat opens a door between one beat and the next, I loose the bolt. It crosses the yard. The plate rings, one clean iron note that rolls the whole length of the range and comes back off the far wall, and the bolt stands buried and quivering an inch left of dead center. Exactly 1 inch. Exactly as far left as a worn string throws a cheap bolt at 150 paces. If you know it's coming and you put it there on purpose. Nobody moves. Gavin's grin is just gone. His mouth hangs open. A boy who made a joke out loud and watched it turn into something he has no way to explain to the 60 people who heard him make it. Tobias has taken a full step backward without knowing he did it. 60 cadets stand and stare at a bandaged charity case who just casually on his first shot did the thing the instructors do to humble them all. Corvin did not clap. He did not smile. He crossed to the master line himself, set his boot against the plate, and worked the bolt free with 2 fingers. And then he stood turning it, reading where it had struck the way a man reads a name he already knows. 50 years around soldiers had taught him the exact and unmistakable difference between a boy who got lucky and a hand that knew precisely what it was doing before it did it, and this was not luck. He looked back down the range at the small ruined thing standing where no cadet stands, and for the first time in a very long while, something in Master Corvin woke up and paid attention. He doesn't say a word to me. He just lifts the bolt over his head, slow, so every cadet in the yard can see exactly where it landed and exactly what that means. Then he lets the silence finish the sentence for him. And something in the set of his shoulders, in the way he keeps looking at me a half beat too long, tells me this is not the last conversation the two of us are going to have. On my way out, I pass the board bolted by the gate. The real one, carved and inked into a single great slab of dark stone, all 200 names, mine scraped raw at the very bottom edge, where a boy has to crouch to read it. Number 200. And at the very top, in letters cut twice the height of any other on the slab, Darius Wayland. I've had targets before. Men I was pointed at from above, by people whose reasons were never mine, for money that was never enough. This is the first target I have ever chosen entirely for myself. I'm not going to kill him. That's the mistake his whole kind always expects from mine. The knife in the dark, the cornered commoner, the desperate stupid thing they can drag you to the gallows for and feel righteous doing it. Killing him would be easy. Worse than that, it would be a gift. It would let him lose fast and clean and never once understand how it happened or what it cost him. No, I'm going to climb this wall instead, name by name. Duel by duel, trial by trial, every rung of it, until the order carved on that slab is turned all the way over, my name cut twice the height at the top, and is scraped down here at the bottom, where the light doesn't reach, and a boy has to crouch to read it. I'm going to beat him on his own field, at the one thing his blood was supposed to guarantee, in front of his father and his friends and his entire gilded world, and then I'm going to leave him alive, right down here at the bottom of it, looking up. The ribs still hurt. The eyes still won't open. 200th out of 200. And every single name on that slab standing above mine. Good. That just means there's only one direction left to go. The plate is still ringing in 60 skulls by the time I make it back to the barracks. And not one of those boys will hold my eye for longer than a breath. That's the thing about a shot like that. It doesn't win you anything. It just swaps the question in the room, from when do we finish him to what is he? And a question is not the same as being safe. I sit on the edge of Kale's cot, bottom bunk, coldest corner, farthest from the stove, the spot the board hands to 200th of 200, and I tip the boy's purse into my palm to see exactly what I'm holding. 11 coppers. That's the whole war chest. A dead soldier's widow scrapes it together each month, and most of it's already gone. 11 coppers. Now the costs. A set of proper bolts at the quartermaster's. Straight, matched, fletched, true, runs 8 coppers. Kale's issue bolts are warped kindling. The plate worked because I read the warp on the draw and aimed around it, but I can't build a climb out of guessing which way garbage flies. 8 for bolts leaves 3, and 3 doesn't feed a growing body for a week, and a starving man shakes, and a shaking hand can't shoot. That's the arithmetic I'm sitting in when my stomach sends me to the mess. The mess is a long stone hall, high table up front for the ranked lords close to the fire, a run of low benches thinning toward the back, where the light doesn't reach, and the scraps table sits. Kale's feet know the way without me asking. There's already someone at the scraps table, and he's enormous. A boy, but built like a smith twice his age, shoulders that won't fit the bench, hands like shovels, folded down as small as he can make it. Like he's trying to take up less room than the world will allot him. 2 of Gavin's hangers-on stand over him, tipping bits of his supper onto the floor one at a time, and making him thank them for it. The name surfaces out of Kale's memory, Garin. Blacksmith's boy from a border village, a charity intake, same as Kale, strong as an ox, and, the part that matters, gentle as one too. There's a story in the memory. First month here, Garin shoved a lord's son off him. One push, and the boy went through a fence and snapped his arm. Garin was flogged for it in front of the yard and told that the next time he raised a hand to his betters, they'd hang him from the gate. So now he doesn't raise it, not to anyone. He eats his supper off the floor because the one time he pushed back it nearly ended him. I have 11 coppers, cracked ribs, 1 working eye, and not a single reason to walk into that. Garin isn't my problem. He's slow, he's broken, he's a liability. And every rule of the work I used to do says you don't pick up strays in hostile country. I'm 3 steps toward him before I've finished telling myself no, and that's when Gavin comes through the mess doors. He's still carrying the plate on his face. The whole hall watched a bandaged cripple ring the master line and heard Gavin swear to carry that cripple to the infirmary. And a boy like Gavin can't live in a room that remembers him losing. He finds me on the benches, and something ugly and relieved settles into him. Here's his fix. Not with a bolt where I beat him, but in the open, in front of the whole mess, where a 10-year-old with cracked ribs can't win. There he is. He says it loud, playing to the hall, and the hall goes quiet to watch. He stops in front of me, looks down, then looks at Garin, and I watch the idea land behind his eyes. Ox. On your feet. Garin doesn't move. I said, up. Garin rises. He has to. They own him, and stands swaying, a head and a half taller than Gavin, hands hanging like he wishes they belonged to someone else. Gavin jerks his chin at me. Hold him, arms behind. I want a conversation with the charity about respect, and I want him to hold still for it. There it is. The ox holds the cripple. The noble does the correcting. The hall learns the lesson. The plate is forgotten. And Garen, God help him, takes half a step toward me, because he's been taught what happens when he doesn't. But Gavin, in his hurry to fix his face, just made the same mistake he made on the range. He said it out loud, in front of witnesses, with an instructor's boots already sounding in the corridor. Because you cannot make this much noise in the mess without one coming. So I don't wait to be grabbed. I raise my voice, not a shout, a clean carrying line, the kind a whole room can repeat later. And I say, Cadet Reyes intends to lay hands on a rostered cadet outside a sanctioned duel, in front of 40 witnesses. That's a discipline breach, and everyone in this hall just heard him order it. The mess stops chewing. Gavin's face does something complicated. He knows the rule. Every cadet does. It's the first thing they teach the lords. Sons, the academy runs on the chain and the ring, and laying hands on a cadet outside the ring costs you rank and confinement. It's exactly why the beating behind the armory happened in the dark. In the light, with a master 3 steps away, that rule has teeth. You want to correct me, Lord Reyes, I say, and now I let it turn. Then do it by the book. I invoke challenge. A gasp down the benches. Sanctioned duel. Marksmanship. At the range, refereed on the roll. You win. You've put the charity in his place with everyone watching. All legal, and my fluke dies for good. I let it hang. Because he wants it so badly I can see him reaching. Or you back out of your own fight in front of the whole mess. And everyone here decides which of us is the coward. I've handed him a door and a trap that look like the same thing. Can't take the door. Not out loud. Not with 40 boys watching. Backing down makes him the noble who is scared of a cripple with a crossbow. So he does the only thing his pride allows. Range now. Gavin spits. 3 bolts, 50 paces. When I bury you, you crawl back to the scraps table and stay there. He shoves past me toward the doors, and the whole mess rises to follow, because nobody in this castle is going to miss this. Garen is still standing there, swaying, staring at me like I've grown a second head. You didn't have to, he says very quietly. His voice is a big soft rumble that doesn't match anything else about the day. I know, I tell him already moving. Come watch. The range is the same flat yard of packed dirt, straw butts at 50 paces, the iron plate hanging alone and silent past them. Master Corvin is there before we are. Of course he is. He's the range master, and word travels. Arms folded at the officers. Rail with that stillness. The older cadets go quiet around. He looks at the crowd pouring in, at Gavin, at me, in my bandages, and says exactly one word. Terms. Sanctioned challenge, I say. 3 bolts each, 50 paces, scored by ring. Cadet Ray is accepted before 40 witnesses in the mess. Corvin's eyes move to Gavin. Gavin, jaw tight, nods. And I watch the old man clock the whole shape of it, the cripple who forced a ranked lord into the ring in the light, where the rules bite. Something at the corner of his mouth moves that isn't quite anything. Loser shoots first, Corvin says. By rank, that's the challenger. You, he means me. Good. I wanted first. Because here's the shot nobody in this yard understands but me. I'm not just trying to beat Gavin. I'm going to break him before he lifts his crossbow. At the officer's rail, apart from the crowd, Darius Wayland watched with his face perfectly still. He'd followed the noise out of boredom, and now he stood watching his loudest, most useful hound charge headlong into a fight the charity boy had built for him beam by beam. Gavin thinks he's about to win. Darius thought. He doesn't understand that he was chosen. Darius's eyes went to the bandaged boy at the line, and for the second time in 2 days the arithmetic in his head refused to come out clean. I stepped to the line with Kale's warped issue bolts because I never got to the quartermaster. Fine. I read the warp on the first draw the way I read it on the plate. I don't rush. I let the whole yard watch me not rush, because the not rushing is the weapon now. First bolt, center ring. It goes in dead and clean, and the yard makes a low sound. I don't look pleased. I don't look anything. I draw again slow, and let my one working eye drift to Gavin, just long enough that he knows I looked, and put the second bolt through the center a finger from the first. Now he's sweating. I can see it from here. He's 41st on the board and genuinely good for his age, but he's never had to shoot with a hall full of eyes waiting for him to fail, and he's watching a cripple do it like breathing. Third bolt, center 3 for 3, tight enough to cover with a coin. I step back off the line and I still don't smile, and that's what finishes him. Not the shots, the silence after them. Gavin steps up rattled, draws too fast, and his first bolt catches the outer ring. His second is better, second ring, but his hand is shaking now the way I said it would, and his third sails wide and thuds into the straw a full hand outside the rings. It's over. Everyone knows the count before Corvin says it. 3 center rings against 2 outer and a miss. The charity boy just beat the 40th ranked lord at the one thing his blood was supposed to guarantee, publicly on the roll, and Gavin can't hold it. He turns, and I watch the noble blood wake up in him. That heat commoners don't get. Mana crawling red up his shooting arm, and he wheels on me with it, because he cannot stand to lose clean, and he's 14 and stupid, and the whole yard just watched him break. He throws it. A fistful of raw force, straight at the cripple who humiliated him. I already stepped left. I stepped left the moment his shoulders turned, because I've watched 100 men decide to do something stupid, and the shoulders always tell you first. The force cracks past where I was standing and blows a straw butt off its post. And Master Corvin, who's been waiting for exactly this since the word terms left his mouth, drops the hammer. Cadet Reyes. His voice doesn't rise, and it doesn't need to. You drew mana on a rostered cadet inside a sanctioned marksmanship duel, after the count in front of the range master. He lets it sit in the dead quiet yard. Match forfeit, though you'd already lost it. 10 places docked. 2 weeks confinement, and you'll muck the stables the length of it. Colder. You are dismissed from my range. Gavin stands there with the red dyeing on his arm, and his whole world rearranging on his face. And behind him, on the great slab by the gate, 2 names are about to move in opposite directions. Mine climbs. Not to the top, nothing so clean, but a first sanctioned win over a ranked cadet, plus his forfeit, carries me a long way up out of the dark. 200th of 200. By the time they re-ink the slab that evening, Kale sits at 174, and Gavin Reyes has fallen to 51st, and every cadet in the academy reads both moves before lights out. The second face slap public, and it cost him 10 times what it cost me. Garen finds me at the gate as the crowd breaks up buzzing. He looms there, hands opening and closing. When Reyes told me to hold you, he rumbles finally, I wasn't going to. He says it like a confession, first time I ever decided that. About anything. He looks at his own huge hands like they scare him. Everyone says I'm dangerous, that I'll kill someone if I forget myself, so I don't do anything, ever. Here's what I understand about Garen in that moment. The thing that makes him worth more than any set of bolts. He isn't afraid of the crew. He's afraid of himself. He spent his whole short life being told his strength is a curse, and he believes it so hard he's made himself furniture. You don't have to hit anyone, I tell him, ever. That's not what I need you for. He looks up. I need someone at my back who's harder to move than a wall, so the next 3 that come for me in the dark think twice. You don't throw a punch. You stand there and be exactly as big as you are. That's a job that saves lives without ending one. Can you do that? Something in his face I don't have a word for. Yeah, he says. Yeah, I can do that. Then you're mine, I say. And I mean it as a fact, not a kindness. And that's exactly why he believes it. Which brings me back to 11 coppers. Garen eats off the scraps table too, and after today, the crew comes for him twice as hard for the crime of deciding something himself, and the one asset I now own that can stand between me and a dark corridor is running on the same broth I am. So here's the real math. The one waiting under the bolts and food math the whole time. 8 coppers of proper bolts I need, that would make my next duel a certainty instead of a read on warped garbage. Or 3 days of hot food, paid for, in the one body big enough to keep me alive to shoot the next one. I walk to the quartermaster's window. I don't buy the bolts. I buy Garen a hot supper, and then another, and I put the last of it towards squaring a kitchen hand to keep feeding him when I'm not looking. I keep the warped bolts, because I can read the warp, and I can't yet read the future. Bet on yourself. The old work always said. But the old work was one man alone in hostile country, and I'm not building one man alone. The first rule of a thing with parts, you feed the part that keeps the other standing. 11 coppers spent, 0 left, and a wall of a boy who'd now put himself between me and a knife. Cheapest armor I ever bought. That night, the barracks goes dark and cold, and I lie in the bottom bunk in the corner. And for the first time since the plate rang, there's nothing to do and no one to read. And that's when it finds me. It isn't mine, so it takes me by surprise. It comes up out of the body all at once. The boy's grief, Kale's grief, all the crying he never got to finish before I moved in. His father's hands, huge and warm, lifting him onto a fence rail to watch the soldiers march. His mother's face at the road when the letter came, the way it went still, and never quite came back. The exact loneliness of the scraps table, night after night. Being the boy the whole hall agreed not to see. He was 10. His father was dead, and they beat him for shooting straight, and no one came. No one ever came, and the last thought in his head before the boots was probably just why. I lie there and let it move through the small body it belongs to, and I don't fight it. I've carried men out of the field who died in my arms and I never let myself feel one of them, not once, because feeling gets you killed. But this boy has no one left to feel it for him, so I do. Just tonight, I let Kale grieve. Kale in the dark, in the cold corner, 200th of, no, 174th now. And somewhere in the middle of borrowing his sorrow, it stops being only borrowed. His father lifted him onto a fence to watch soldiers he'd never command. Fine, I'll command them. His mother's face went still at a grave. Fine, she'll hear her son's name read from the top of that slab before I'm done, and it'll move again. They took this boy's whole small life and carved his name at the bottom of a wall where a body has to crouch to read it. I'm going to make them look up. I close the one eye that works, and the ribs ache, and Garen is snoring like a landslide 2 bunks over. My landslide now. And for the first time, I'm not a dead man wearing a boy. I'm just Kale, and I have a very long way to climb. Good, I told you. There's only one direction to go. Here's how you eat a board from the bottom. One name at a time, and always the name directly above yours. The rules allow it. A cadet may challenge any name up to 10 places above his own. Sanctioned, refereed on the roll. Beat them, and you take their place. They slide down 1. It's the machinery of the climb, and almost nobody uses it. Nobody below the middle has anything worth betting. Nobody above wants to risk the fall. I use it every 3 days. I challenge marksmanship every time. The one field where a cracked-ribbed 10-year-old and a 16-year-old lord stand at the same line with the same weight of bolt. And the only thing that decides it is whether your hand knows what mine knows. None of theirs do. 174 to 151 in 9 days. The names blur. A merchant house boy who flinched. A knight's son who lost clean and shook my hand. 3 lords who'd never had to perform in front of a crowd that wanted them to fail. I don't gloat. A boy who wins quietly is one. The winners can't work out how to hate correctly, and confusion is worth more than fear this early. The climb has a ceiling, and its name is my equipment. Kale's crossbow is academy issue. Lath tired, string frayed past true, and his bolts are warped kindling. I've been winning on reeds. I know how the warp throws and I aim around it. But reeds get thinner the finer the shot gets, and somewhere up this board is a shot too fine to fake. I need a weapon that does what I tell it. I have no idea how to build one. That's the day I find Pip, or the day the crew finds him for me. There's a workshop off the armory where cadets maintain their gear, and a boy who's always in it, and the whole academy has decided he's a joke. Pip, smallest cadet on the roll, can't shoot, can't fence, no mana worth the name, cries if you make him spar. What he can do, nobody notices. He takes things apart and they come back better. I find him because 3 of Gavin's leftovers. A hound pack doesn't dissolve when you jail the loudest hound. Have Pip backed against the bench smashing something he built. A jig of some kind. Pegs and threads. Weeks of work. Broken piece by piece for the same reason they broke Garen's supper. Because he made it and they can. I don't invoke a rule this time. Rules are for an audience. And there's none here. Just a back room and a crying boy. So I send Garen in first. Garen doesn't touch them. He walks in, fills the doorway, folds his arms, and the temperature of the room changes. 3 16-year-olds doing the math on a wall of a boy who could put any of them through the bench, and deciding all at once that they had somewhere else to be. They leave barely even blustering. That's Garen. I told him he'd save lives without throwing a punch. And here he is on day 3. Pip stares up at us, snot and sawdust, braced for the next round. What do you want? That jig. I nod at the wreck of it. What's it for? He blinks. Nobody's ever asked. Fletching, he says slowly. Insistent fletching. If the vanes are even to the half degree the bolt doesn't yaw and the group tightens by, he stops, embarrassed. Sure, I'm about to laugh. I don't laugh. I've just heard the ceiling of my climb described by a 10-year-old with sawdust in his hair. I'm Kale, 151 and climbing, on warped bolts and a dead string. Here's a trade. You fix my gear, I win, and the higher I climb the more the academy pays me by rank band, and I spend it on your materials. You get a workshop nobody comes to wreck. I get a weapon that does what I tell it. Nobody's charity, it's business, because the board pays. Each cadet draws a monthly allowance by band. The bottom 50 get 11 coppers, nothing. The 150 band, 20. The top 100, 40 and credit at the quartermasters. Every place I climb is coin. Coin is Pip's materials. Pip's work is more places climbed. A loop feed it and it grows. Pip looks at Garen, at me at the broken jig, and something moves in his face I recognize from Garen 2 days ago. The look of a boy handed a use for the thing he'd been told was worthless. I can make you bolts that'll shame anything in the armory, he says. Give me a week and 20 coppers and he catches himself, then decides to trust it. I'll make you dangerous. I'm counting on it. The next morning, before the bells, a hand catches my shoulder in the dark of the arcade. Corvin, you're on my range at 4th bell, he says. Not a request. For the others. Tell no one. He's already walking off when he adds, without turning, bring the warped bolts. I want to watch you do it wrong on purpose again. So the secret starts. 4th bell, the range empty and gray, and Corvin teaching me things not in any cadet's curriculum. Wind off the walls at 3 ranges, reading light, the breath at the bottom. Then he stops teaching and starts watching, because within 2 mornings he's worked out he isn't teaching me most of it. He's confirming it. He never says the thing straight. But I catch him studying me the way I study a target. How I hold the weapon, how I call the shot before it lands, how a boy who should be learning to breathe already breathes like a man who's done it under fire for 20 years. One morning he says, not quite a question. You didn't learn to shoot at this academy. I say nothing. He nods slowly as if the silence was the answer he expected, and doesn't ask again. Whatever Corvin's decided I am, he means to keep it and find out. He tells me one other thing. Oiling a lath. There's a war coming on the northern line. Realer than the masters here want to teach. Boys who top this board will be commanding men into it inside 2 years. He looks at me. Best you be worth the men, when it's you. Then back to the oil, and that's all. But I file it, because Corvin doesn't waste words. Then Mila finds me, and she isn't carrying bandages. She catches me outside the ward at dusk. Arms crossed, that dry, tired look. You've made the top of the board nervous, Charity. I hear things in there you don't. She nods back at the ward. Boys come to me hurt and talk while I'm stitching, because they think a healer's apprentice is furniture, same as they think the ox is furniture, or the tinker. A thin smile. This place is full of furniture that listens. What did you hear? There's a marksman's trial in 4 days, she says. The whole academy scored at the line. Posted at the top of the range is the long mark. A bolt into the center ring at 200 paces, set 15 years ago by a graduate who's a general now on the Northern Line. No cadet has touched it since. And the smart money says the charity boy will try for it, because he's climbed on nothing but shooting, and there's only one place left to shoot. So they've decided to end me at the trial, 2 ways at once. First, a report. 2 lords, Aldrich and Sen, have filed a formal complaint. A commoner cannot shoot the way Kale shoots. Therefore, his gear must be illegally mana-tuned and he should be inspected, disqualified, struck off the roll before he can shame the record. Clever. It turns my whole climb into evidence of cheating. The better I've shot, the guiltier I look. Second, if the report doesn't stick, they'll make sure I fail anyway. Someone gets into the workshop before the trial and sabotages the crossbow, a filed lath, a nicked string, something that holds a draw or two, and lets go at 200 paces in front of the whole academy. Clear the report or not, a public misfire buries the legend. Mila watches me take it in. So, that's what the furniture heard. You in the market for a medic who listens or not? You're in. Rank comes with an allowance. You'll get a cut like the others. I don't want a cut. She picks her bandage roll back up. I want to watch their faces when it doesn't work. Then quieter, almost to herself, 4 charity cases came to me broken this year. I'm tired of stitching. I'd rather build something that hits back. She's crew before either of us says the word. I take it to Pip that night. He's already halfway through the new bolts. A dozen match-grade shafts off his rebuilt jig. A fresh string he cut and waxed. He listens and his small face goes hard in a way I haven't seen. They're going to break my work, he says. Not my crossbow. My work. Good. He's mine all the way through now. Let them try, in fact. And here the plan assembles itself out of pieces the crew handed me without meaning to. The report and the sabotage don't cancel me. Aimed right, they cancel each other. Let them sabotage it. We just have to be the ones who find it, in front of the people who matter, at the right moment. And here's the real choice. I could win the trial quiet. Clear my gear, place high, leave the long mark standing another year. Stay a curiosity instead of a threat. Because there's a duke's name at the top of this world, and a boy who breaks a 15-year record on a general's own mark does not stay beneath a duke's notice. He becomes a problem the house has to solve. But I didn't come back into this small broken body to be forgotten safely. I've run enough operations to know sometimes the loudest move is the safest one, because a legend is armor. A charity boy they can break quietly behind an armory. A charity boy the whole academy watched shatter the long mark, gear inspected and cleared, cheating disproved in front of the masters. That boy is expensive to touch. Every witness is a wall, and past a certain point coming at me costs more than leaving me alone. Decisive, always decisive. Make it undeniable, make it public, and let the size of it protect the small body that did it. Pip, don't just fix the sabotage when we find it. Build me a trial they'll tell their grandchildren about. Trial day. The whole academy forms up along the range at midday. The trial masters at a long table. Aldrich and Sen stand near the front with the particular ease of men who've already won. The top 100 are here to watch a general's record hold and a charity boy get expelled. And along the officer's rail, arms folded, Master Corvin, saying nothing, watching me the way he watches everything now. I walk to the table before I'm called and do the thing they least expect. I ask for the inspection myself. Masters, I understand there's a complaint that my equipment is mana-tuned. I'd like it inspected. Now, publicly, before I shoot a single bolt. I set the crossbow and Pip's dozen bolts on the table. I have nothing to hide, and I'd rather the record I'm about to set carries no asterisk. Aldrich's smile slips. He expected me to fight the inspection. A guilty boy fights. A boy who demands it is a different problem. The masters inspect and of course find no mana. A cheap academy crossbow, a waxed string, Pip's honest wooden bolts, not a threat of enhancement, because I haven't a drop of mana to tune it with and never did. The headmaster says it aloud, annoyed. The equipment is clean, the complaint baseless. But that's only half. As the master turns the crossbow over, Pip, at my shoulder, as my rostered second, says, clear and carrying. Master. Check the lath just under the stirrup. I maintained this weapon myself 2 nights ago. It was sound. I'd like it confirmed it still is. The master checks. And there it is. A fresh file mark across the lath. Deep enough to fail under a full draw, cut in the last 2 days by a hand that got into a locked workshop. Not old wear, new deliberate. Sabotage, on academy record, confirmed by a trial master in front of the entire school. Now the room turns. Because the room isn't stupid and everyone runs the same arithmetic at once. 2 lords file a complaint to get the charity boy inspected, and in the same window someone files his crossbow so he'll fail anyway. 2 attacks, same target, same 4 days. Nobody has to name Aldrich and Sen. The shape of it names them. Corvin steps off the rail. He doesn't accuse, he doesn't have to. A filed complaint and a filed lath, he says to the masters, flat and loud. Someone entered a locked workshop and tampered with a rostered cadet's weapon before a scored trial. That's not mockery. That's a crime against the trial itself. He lets it land. I'd look hard at who most needed this boy to fail today. The masters look hard. Aldrich opens his mouth and nothing good comes out. There's no proof he held the file, but there doesn't need to be. A complaint in his own hand for motive. A sabotaged weapon for means. A trial master holding the evidence. By the rules they teach on day 1, malicious use of the complaint process. Tampering with a trial. Both lords eat it. Rank docked hard. Confinement. Their names slide down the slab, and every cadet learns the lesson twice over. Come at the charity boy sideways and it comes back doubled. That's the third face slap. They built it themselves. I just made sure the right people were watching when it went off. And then gear cleared. Saboteurs disgraced. The whole academy's eyes on me and on my side for the first time in this body's life. I pick up the crossbow pip, rebuilt and walk to the 200 paces line to break a general's record. Along the rail, Corvin found he was holding his breath. 50 years of soldiers, and he could count on one hand the cadets he'd seen shoot the way this boy shot. Now he was watching something quieter and worse than talent, and part of him, the part that had oiled that lath and told the boy about the war, was glad. And part of him was afraid, because a weapon this fine in a body this small would be wanted by dangerous people soon. I breathe out. At the bottom of it I loose, and the first bolt crosses 200 paces and buries itself dead in the center ring. And the range makes a low, involuntary sound. Matched 15 years and matched, but matched isn't the record I came for. Matched leaves room for luck. For an asterisk, for a duke to tell himself it was a fluke that won't happen twice. So I do the thing I planned the moment Mila told me the trial was coming. I draw a second bolt, Pip's twin to the first, and I call it aloud, so the masters and the whole academy hear exactly what I mean to attempt before I attempt it. Same ring, splitting the first, and I put the second bolt into the back of the first at 200 paces, and the shaft splinters down its length, and two bolts stand as one in the dead center of a general's record that no longer belongs to the general. Nobody breathes. Then the range comes apart with noise, and it isn't the polite noise cadets make for a lord, it's the other kind. The kind you can't fake and can't buy. Darius Wayland did not applaud. He watched two bolts stand as one at 200 paces, and ran the arithmetic one last time, and this time it came out clean. A charity boy, cracked ribs, no blood, no mana. 3 weeks off a cot Darius had personally ordered him left on. 151 to inside the top 100, a 15-year record shattered on a called shot, 2 house allies disgraced trying to stop him. That night, Darius did a thing he'd never once done about a commoner. He sat and wrote to his father. The letter was short. It said there was a boy at the academy the house would want to know about before he became someone the house could not afford to have noticed too late. I don't see the letter, but I feel the weather change. Because that evening they re-ink the slab, and Kale sits at 86, top 100, off the scraps table, onto the officer track, and for the first time this name is carved in the upper half of the wall, where the light reaches. Reading it, I feel the whole shape of the thing shift under me. Yesterday I was a curiosity the lords could afford to hate for sport. Today I'm a problem a duke has to solve. Good, let them solve me. Every move they make against a boy the whole academy watched shatter. A general's record is a move made in the light, with witnesses on my field. They should have finished me behind the armory when I was cheap. I'm not cheap anymore. Twice a year the academy marches its cadets beyond the walls and hands them a war. Not a real one, a controlled zone. A stretch of forest and broken hill a half-day north, fenced by patrols, blunted bolts and pulled mana, judges watching from the ridges. 2 teams, 1 objective, an old signal tower on the central hill. Take it. Hold it till dawn, and your team wins. The point of it, the masters say, is to teach the future officers command. The point of it this season is to teach me a lesson, because the teams are assigned, and mine has been assigned for me. I read my roster off the board and I almost laugh. It's so clumsy it's honest. Every name on it comes from the bottom of the wall. Garen, Pip. A prickly girl named Lyra Vaunt, last daughter of a house that lost its money 3 generations back, ranked low and furious about it. A quiet commoner called Teo, who nobody's ever heard speak, from some forest village up on the border. And 2 more dregs to fill the squad. 6 cadets the academy has decided are furniture, handed to the charity boy so the golden team can grind us into the dirt and call it leadership practice. Across the yard, the other roster is a wall of stars. Top 10 names, mana in every vein, led by cadet Captain Merrick Halden, 9th on the board. The model the masters hold up when they want a boy to see what an officer looks like. Halden is genuinely good. He's also been waiting for a stage to put the charity boy in his place ever since the long mark made the lords look like amateurs. The house handed him this one. They think they've given me a team of losers to be crushed. What they've actually given me is a small unit of people the world threw away, which, and this is the part the lords will never understand, is the only kind of unit worth a damn. Furniture has one thing in common. It's been underestimated its whole life. Underestimated is just another word for a weapon nobody's counting. They march us out at dusk. The zone earns its fence. The moment the walls drop behind us, the temperature drops with them, and the forest closes in cold and black and older than the academy's neat rules about it. This is the part the masters undersell. Before you fight anyone out here, you fight the ground. Wet cold that saps a boy's hands until he can't hold a draw. Dark that hides a broken ankle in every root. Half the golden teams that lose the exercise lose it to the night, not the enemy. My dregs know cold and hunger the way the lords never will. That's the first advantage nobody counted. I don't give a speech. Speeches are for officers who need to believe they're leading. I give jobs. Tio, you're my eyes, read the ground before dark. Every draw, every game trail, every place a man can and can't move. Go. He looks at me like a boy who's spent his whole life being told to be quiet and just discovered someone wants him to speak. Then he goes and he moves through the trees without a sound, and inside a minute, I know I've found my scout, Pip. The tower hill funnels to 2 approaches. A wide draw from the south, a narrow spine from the east. Turn the south draw into a place people regret walking. Snares, deadfalls, anything that trips and tangles without breaking a leg. You've got till moonrise. Pip lights up. Give the boy who builds things a battlefield to build, and he stops being small. Garen. When it comes, and it will, you hold the east spine. One man wide. Nothing gets past you. You don't hit anyone. The old promise, you just be the wall they can't get through. Lyra, you shoot? She bristles. Better than anyone in this sorry excuse for a good. You're my second gun. High ground, east side, cover Garen's spine from above. She opens her mouth to argue about being told what to do, looks at my face and shuts it. Furious, obedient, and a dead shot. The exact 3 things I need. Lyra stalks off to her height, muttering that she takes orders from a 10-year-old now apparently. Garen watches her go, then rumbles to nobody. She's scarier than the nobles. Pip, elbow deep in a tripline, doesn't look up. She threatened to shoot me for touching her quiver. I like her. It's the first time in this body's life I've heard my crew joke with each other, and I let it run. Because a unit that laughs in the dark before a fight is a unit that already trusts itself. Tio comes back before moonrise and he isn't reporting terrain. He's frowning. There's tracks, he says, low. Down the north edge past the marker fence. Boots, grown men, 6 or 8, moving careful. A cold camp, gone 2 days. He looks at me. That's outside the zone. That's not us. And it's not them. Nobody said anyone else to be out here. I file it hard. Right next to the thing Corvin said about the war on the northern line. But tonight I have a tower to take, and I can't chase ghosts past the fence with 6 children and blunt bolts. Show me later, I tell him. Eyes on the exercise for now. He nods. But I watch the north edge after that. More than I let on. Halden comes at us the way the academy teaches. The way the strong always come. Straight and confident. Because when you've never lost, you don't plan for it. So I give him a loss to plan around. Disinformation first. I let his scouts find a camp, fires, movement, the shape of 6 cadets dug in for the night, at the mouth of the wide south draw. It's a lie. 2 of my dregs, a row of propped cloaks, every fire I could spare, built to look like the whole team made the amateur's mistake of bedding down in the easy ground. His scouts report it. Halden believes it, because it's exactly the mistake he expects the charity boy to make. He commits his main push down the south draw at moonrise, to crush the camp and take the tower behind it in one stroke, straight into Pip's ground. What happens in the south draw isn't a battle, it's a harvest. Pip's snares take the first rank off their feet in the dark. Trip lines, a brush deadfall, a slope greased with wet leaves, and a formation that trips is a formation that stops, and a formation that stops in a narrow draw is a stack of targets standing on top of each other. I'm above them with the crew and we don't miss. Blunt bolts, but a blunt bolt to the chest at 40 paces ends your exercise all the same, and the judges' horns start calling tags in the dark, one after another, Halden's best going out like, no, just going out. 6 of his stars tangled and tagged in the draw before they work out, the camp was empty. One of them gets himself untangled, third on the whole board, a lord named Bran, who once ground Kale's supper into the mess floor with a boot and told him to eat it off the stones, and he charges my height alone, roaring, mana up, sure that closing the distance saves him. Distance is the one thing that never saves you from me. I tag him at 30 paces mid-stride and he goes down in the leaves with the horn sounding over him, and somewhere in the dark I let myself enjoy exactly 1 second of it. Halden's good though. I told you he was. He doesn't break. He pulls what's left of his push out of the draw and does the right thing. Swings hard for the east spine, the narrow path, going for the tower by the one approach Pip didn't trap. Smart. It's what I do. It's also where Garen is. Here's where the exercise stops being clever and turns into a choice. 3 of Halden's heaviest come up the spine at Garen at once. Mana lit. Pulled for the exercise, but pulled mana still rings your bones, and Garen does exactly what I asked. Plants himself 1 man wide, does not move, takes it, holds. But 3-on-1 is 3-on-1, and from my perch I can see him buckling, and the judges won't call a man safe just because he's mine. Pulled mana won't kill him, but it can break an arm, and I can see the biggest of the 3 winding up for exactly that. The kind of accident. That happens to charity boys in the dark, and gets written off as rough play. And at that exact moment the tower comes open. Halden, throwing everything at the spine, has left the tower hill light, and I have 1 clean lane from height to the beacon. Take it now, and I take the objective myself. Personally, the winning play with my own hand, and it vaults my name up the board past 50. Individual glory on the record witnessed by every judge on the ridge. Or I put that bolt into the lead man crushing Garen, give up the personal shot, and trust the plan and the crew to close the tower without my name on it. It isn't close, it was never going to be close. I put the bolt through the chest of the man breaking my wall. His horn sounds out and the weight on Garen cracks. Garen heaves the other 2 back a step. Lyra's fire from above pins them off the spine and the wall holds, and the tower falls to Teo. Because I built a unit, not a stage for myself, and while I was saving Garen, my quiet scout ghosted up the far side of the hill, exactly the way we planned it for whoever got the lane. He puts his hand on the beacon and holds it, and the dawn horn sounds and the exercise is over. We hold the tower at dawn, the throwaway team. 6 pieces of furniture and a charity boy. On the ridge, the judges lowered their glasses and didn't speak for a moment. They had come to watch Cadet Captain Halden give a clinic. Instead, they had watched a boy at the bottom of the officer track take a hand-picked team of rejects, and with a fake camp, a trapped draw, and a wall named Garen, dismantle the 9th-ranked cadet in the academy piece by piece, and then, at the moment of his own glory, spend it to save one of his own. The senior judge, an old campaigner, wrote a single line in his book and underlined it twice. This one does not shoot like a cadet. He commands like an officer who has already buried men. Master Corvin, standing at the judge's shoulder where he had no official reason to be, read the line over the man's arm and said nothing, and felt the old cold worry settle deeper, because he was the only one there who suspected how exactly right it was. Halden doesn't come to shake my hand. He stands at the tower's foot in the gray dawn, with his golden team tagged out around him, and he looks up at the charity boy holding the beacon, and I watch a top 10 lord understand, in front of every judge and every cadet who'll hear it retold by nightfall, that he was out-generaled by furniture. He'll carry that the way Gavin carries the plate. Good. Let the golden boys learn what the bottom of the wall already knows. Nobody is owed a win. They re-ink the slab that evening and Kale climbs, but not the way I could have. 86-74. A solid jump for a team win. And I look at the number and I know precisely what it isn't. Had I taken that tower with my own hand, it would read 50-something. I left 20 places on the spine next to Garen, and I'd do it again, and here's why. The board is a tool, not the job. A number buys me nothing if the thing that earns it can't be trusted to hold a line when I'm not the one standing in it. Tonight I learned my wall holds, my scout ghosts, my second gun obeys under fire. That's worth more than 20 places. You can't shoot your way out of every corner, and someday I'll need people at my back who don't break, and now I know I have them. Lyra finds me after the fury gone out of her, replaced by something warier and more interested. You gave up the win, she says. The real one, the one that counts for you for the ox? She says it like it won't compute. Why? Because Garen holds a line no one else can, and people who hold lines are worth more than points. You held yours too. I don't forget that. She doesn't answer, but I watch it land. A girl 3 generations poor, ranked low and told she's nothing, hearing from someone that what she did mattered. She's not crew yet, but she's looking at us now like a door she didn't know was open. Tio just sits down beside Garen at the fire without a word, like he's decided that's where he sits now. Nobody argues. That's how it goes with Teo. I'm learning, he doesn't ask to belong, he just quietly starts. But I don't sleep on the win. Before the march home, while the judges are still packing their glasses, I take Teo back to the north edge, up to the marker fence, and he shows me the tracks. They're exactly what he said. Boots grown men, 6 or 8, moving in a careful staggered file, the way men move when they don't want to be seen. A cold camp 2 days gone, the fire buried, not a scrap left behind. Nobody buries a fire in a training zone. You bury a fire when you're at war, and a wisp of smoke gets you killed. 2 ridges north past the marker fence and the academy's tidy idea of where the safe world ended, 6 men lay up in the gray dawn and watch the cadets play at their little war on the Tower Hill. They wore no colors. They had come a long way south of the northern line, quiet and unhurried, counting the academy's patrols and marking the gaps. And they watched with professional interest as one small team took the tower against the odds. Their captain marked the boy on the height, the one who shot in the dark and never missed, and filed him away the way soldiers file a thing that might matter later. Then they slipped back north to report that the walls the kingdom trusted were thinner than the kingdom believed. I don't see the 6 men on the ridge, but I stand at the marker fence with my quiet scout and a fistful of cold facts, and I look north into country the academy swears is safe, and I know it isn't. Corvin said a war was coming. The masters are teaching these boys to hold a beacon till dawn. Somebody past that fence is teaching men to bury their fires. We march home winners. Everyone toasts the throwaway team that broke the Golden Boys. I keep looking north, because the exercise was a game and the tracks weren't, and I'm the only one in this whole academy counting the difference. Once a year the academy opens its gates and lets the world in to watch. The inter-cohort tournament every year competing at once, every discipline on the field, and the stands full of the people the board is really for. Lords, ladies, visiting houses come to shop for the officers who will command their sons. Regiments in 5 years. Marksmanship on the long range, dueling in the sand ring, tactical bouts on the model ground. Win your way up the ladder, bout by bout, and the whole kingdom's aristocracy watches you do it. I've been waiting for this since I woke up in a bandaged body at the bottom of a wall. The whole valley comes for it. Carriages line the road from the capital. House banners snap over the stands, and the visiting lords bring their daughters to be seen and their coin to place quiet bets on which cadets will be worth an officer's commission. For a week, the academy stops pretending it's a school and admits what it is, a market, and the board is the price list. Today the market gets a show nobody bought a ticket for, because they're all here. Every boy who ever put a boot in Kale's ribs is entered. The tournament's compulsory for the top 100, and I clawed my way into the top 100 exactly, so this day would have them in it. And up in the high stands, under the Wayland banner, sits a man who came a long way to watch a charity boy he'd only read about in his son's letter. Duke Roland Wayland had not set foot in the academy in 9 years. He had come now for one reason, folded in his coat, a letter in his son's careful hand, about a commoner. He did not expect to be impressed. Commoners did not impress Roland Wayland, but he was a careful man, and Darius did not waste ink, so the Duke sat under his own banner and watched the latter with the patience of a man appraising a horse he might have to put down. My crew is with me at the competitor's rail. Pip's got my crossbow stripped and tuned to the grain, a quiver of his match bolts laid out in a precise row. Mila's somewhere in the stands with her ears open. Lyra and Tio watch from the rail, and I catch the look on Lyra's face. She's not asking to belong anymore. She's standing with us like it's already true. Then Mila slips me the lever. She finds me before the first bout, quick and low. "You want to end them?" she says. "Not beat them, end them, and I can hand you the tool." She's been listening in the ward for months and she has it all. Which lords cheated their way up the board, whose family coin is dirty, who did what to whom in the dark. Say the word and I'll make sure the right ladies in those stands hear the right stories by the third round. Gavin's house is one scandal from ruin. I can push it over today, in front of everyone whose opinion is their whole world. She watches me. That's the real kill. The board's a game. Their names in those stands, that's everything. She's right. It would work. And here's the choice. Laid out clean before the first bolt flies. I could destroy them. Not on the range, in the stands. Take Mila's stories to the visiting houses. Break their family standing. Ruin the fathers, for the sins of the sons. And leave every one of my tormentors watching their world come down around them. It's within reach. It's arguably justice. And it's exactly what their kind does to mine. The whisper, the poisoned name, the knife that never shows a hand. But that isn't what I came back into this body to do. Killing a man's name in the dark makes me the thing that broke Kale behind the armory. It makes the revenge theirs, not mine. And it lets them off easy. In a way, a ruined house is a thing you can blame on fate, on enemies, on bad luck. No, I want them to know exactly who did it, and exactly how, on their own field, at the one thing they were raised to be best at, in the full light with the whole world watching. I want to beat them so cleanly there's no story left to tell, but the true one. The charity boy was better. No, I tell Mila, keep the stories. We do this in the light, by the rules, with everyone watching. She studies me a moment, then nods, and I think she approves, though with Mila you never entirely know. "Your revenge," she says, "your way." I call the first bout, and the latter hands me Tobias Cord. The one who held Kale's arms in the dark behind the armory while Gavin did the kicking, held them so a 10-year-old couldn't cover his own face. The discipline is marksmanship, and it's over almost before it starts. I don't gloat. I don't grandstand. I shoot, clean and cold and perfect, and Tobias, who is not a bad shot, watches his best answered by center rings he can't touch, and the horns call it in 3 volleys. He held my arms once so I couldn't fight back. Today I handed him a weapon in a fair line and beat him with both. The difference between those two things is the whole point of everything I'm doing here. Tobias lowers his crossbow and stares at the targets like they've betrayed him. He came expecting the trembling charity boy he helped make. He got a machine. The stands make a sound, not the polite one. Word's gone round who these boys are to me. That's the thing about an academy. Everyone knows everyone's cruelty, and the crowd is starting to understand what it's watching. Not a tournament, an accounting. The latter gives me 2 more of them before it gives me the one that matters. A Reyes cousin who talks big in the barracks and folds the moment one of my bolts parts his plume at 50 paces. Then Sen, one of the pair who filed the false report and got caught for it, who draws me in the sand ring and lasts about as long as his lie did. Each falls faster and louder than the last, and each time the stands lean further my way, because a crowd loves nothing on earth like watching the mighty discover. They were never as mighty as the seating chart said. Between bouts, Pip reworks my string like a man diffusing something, muttering numbers only he understands. Garen stands at the rail with his arms crossed, and every noble who drifts too near my crew drifts right back out of his range without quite knowing why. Tio watches the stands more than the field. Old habit, my scout. Always reading the room I'm not looking at. It's the strangest thing. For the first time this body has a corner of the world that is entirely on its side. The ladder climbs, and it gives me Gavin Reyes, the plate, the kicking. The boy who spent every month since I rang the master line clawing back up the board with the single furious purpose of erasing me, and now the ladder has set us face to face in the sand ring, in front of the entire kingdom's nobility and his own duke. And I watch him realize this is the moment he's been praying for and dreading in equal measure. The discipline is a duel. Mixed arms, first to 3 clean touches. Mana pulled to non-lethal. The one format that should favor him. He has mana. I have none. On paper, this is where the charity boy finally loses. Gavin comes in the way. Rage always comes. Fast, hard, everything forward. Mana crackling off him because he wants to burn me down in one pass and never think about the plate again. I don't have mana to answer it. I have something better. His shoulders, which tell me where he's going before he goes. Same as they did in the mess. Same as they always will. I give ground. I let him spend himself. First touch, I slip inside a wild swing and lay the blunt against his chest. Clean, and the horn sounds one. It breaks something in him, becomes harder, sloppier, and that's the second touch. And by now the ring is dead quiet, because everyone can see it. A mana-blooded lord swinging like a drowning man, at a commoner half his size who keeps not being where the blow lands. Somewhere in the stands a lady laughs high and bright, and it isn't aimed at me, it's aimed at him, and I watch him hear it, and I watch it finish whatever the touches started. And then Gavin does the thing. Losing, humiliated, out of options, he throws a strike he knows is illegal. Mana past the pulled line aimed high. The same raw force he threw at me on the range. Except this time, we're in the ring, with rules and 100 witnesses, and it's a foul that would get him disqualified and disgraced on the spot if I let it land and the judges see it. Here's the dirty option, handed to me live. I could take the hit on purpose, sell it, make it look worse than it is, and let the judges destroy him. A mana strike on a defenseless commoner in front of his own duke would finish Gavin's name for good. Mila's whole strategy, delivered by Gavin's own stupidity. All I have to do is let it hit me and fall. I step left instead, same step as the mess. His illegal strike cracks past into the empty air where I'm not, wasted. And before he's recovered, I put the blunt against his throat. Third touch, clean, legal, final, and the horn sounds 3, and it's over. I didn't let him foul his way to ruin. I beat him fair, in front of everyone, and left him standing and looking up. Gavin's on his knees in the sand, not from a blow. I never landed one that could drop him, but because his whole world just came apart clean, with no one to blame, no foul to cry, no story left but the true one. The charity boy was better. He looks up at me, and there it is, the thing I came back for. Not fear, understanding. I lean down just for him under the roar. You should have left me broken when I was cheap, and I walk away. Because a man looking up at you doesn't need you standing over him. That's the difference between me and them. In the high stands, Duke Roland Wayland set down the letter he'd been holding. He had just watched a commoner with no blood in him refuse a gift-wrapped chance to ruin a noble house, and take the clean win instead. Not from weakness. The Duke could see that plainly, but from something colder and far more dangerous than mercy. Control, a boy who could destroy you and chooses the manner of it. Roland had commanded men for 30 years. He knew the difference between a talented cadet and a threat, and he was no longer watching the first. He looked across the field to the champion's box, where his son sat perfectly still, waiting, and understood at last why Darius had spent the ink. The latter has one name left before the top, and of course it's Halden, Marek Halden. Ninth on the board, the model officer, the golden captain. I out-generaled with a fake camp and a trapped draw, and a wall named Garin, and he's spent every day since telling himself it was a fluke, a trick, terrain, and luck. Today there's no terrain. Today it's a tactical bout on open model ground, force against force, command against command. The one format where a fluke can't hide. He's come to prove the field exercise was a lie, so I beat him again. Not with a trick this time. With the thing the trick was only ever hiding. I read his plan off his opening the way I read a target off the draw. I bait his strong wing into overcommitting. I collapse it, and I take his command marker before he's grasped the shape of what I'm doing to him. Fair ground, fair force, no fake camp, no dark, just faster. The judges call it. And Halden stands there with the truth he's been running from for weeks, finally caught up to him. It was never luck. The charity boy simply thinks quicker than he does, and always did, and that's the latter. Tobias, Gavin, Halden, every hand that was ever raised against this body, put down one by one, in the light, by the rules, in front of the whole kingdom and their own duke. In a single afternoon, I climbed the board further than most cadets climb in a year. By the time the sun drops low, they've provisionally re-inked me into the top handful, a charity boy standing one bout from the very top of a wall that had his name scraped at the bottom 6 months ago. One bout, one name left above me. He sat in the champion's box the whole day, still, watching me clear his people off the field one at a time, never once changing his face. First on the board, heir to the Duke, who's been appraising me from the high stands all day. The one who stood in the dark and said that's enough, not to save Kale, but because a corpse was paperwork. Darius Wayland, the last name on my list and the top name on the wall. In the champion's box, Darius watched the latter empty of every name he'd ever used, and felt no fear. Waylands were not raised to feel it, but for the first time he felt the need to concentrate. He had ordered the boy left broken on a cot, and the boy had climbed off it and taken the whole board apart with a patience that unsettled him more than any rage could have. Rage, he understood. This was something else, a commoner coming for him, one deliberate rung at a time, exactly as he'd promised in the dark, and arriving. Darius flexed his hand and felt the mana answer bright and certain in his blood, and reminded himself that whatever the charity boy was, he had never yet faced a Wayland at full strength. Tomorrow the boy would learn the difference between beating the hounds and beating the master. The crew closes around me at the rail, Garen's grinning wide. Pip's already stripping the crossbow for the most important tune of its life. Lyra says low, "You've got him nervous. I can see it from here. Maybe. Even a Wayland has to be running the arithmetic by now." I look up at the champion's box, and Darius looks back down at me, and neither of us blinks. Everything I've built, the crew, the record, the ladder, the whole climb out of the dark, comes down to the two of us, on his field, in front of his father and his world. Good. I've been climbing toward that box since the day I woke up, looking up at it. Time to make him look up instead. They clear the model ground for the final, and the whole world leans in. Every other bout today was in the sand ring, not this one. The championship final is fought on the open model ground, a wide field of low walls and scattered cover, room to move, room to run, room for a marksman to work and a duelist to hunt. First to 3 clean touches, mana pulled to non-lethal, but a clean mana strike ends your match the same as a bolt to the chest. 1 field, 2 boys, 100 noble houses in the stands, and dead center under his own banner, Duke Roland Wayland, come to watch his heir put the charity boy back in the dirt where he ordered him left. Pip hands me the crossbow with both hands, careful. He's tuned it past perfect. String, lath, the dozen match bolts, all of it dialed to the grain. It'll hold, he says, which for Pip is a prayer. Garen puts one huge hand on my shoulder, says nothing, means everything. Lyra, don't let him make it a brawl. You lose a brawl. She's right, and she's learned enough of me to know it. Mila, quiet. He's not Gavin. He won't hand you a mistake. You'll have to build one also right. My crew has become a thing that reads the field almost as well as I do, and Darius. He walks out the way he does everything, unhurried, certain. a boy who has never once doubted the outcome of anything. He isn't Gavin. There's no rage in him to bait, no fury to spend. He's controlled, precise, genuinely gifted, the best duelist in this academy, and he knows it down to the ground. He looks at me across the field with something almost like courtesy. The courtesy a man extends to a thing he means to put down cleanly, and he says just loud enough, "You climbed well, Charity. Truly. Now stand still and lose to your betters like the rest of them couldn't teach you to." Here's what I know that he doesn't. I can't beat Darius on power. Not a chance. He has mana and I have none. And if this becomes a straight contest of force, he ends me in one clean pass, so it won't be that. Because mana has one weakness the lords are raised never to think about it, runs out. Every strike he throws, every shield he raises, every burst of that bright blood fire costs him from a well that has a bottom. Mine doesn't. I have patience and distance, and a hand that doesn't miss, and I will make him spend. I'll make him pay for every exchange, chase what isn't there, burn his well on empty air, and when the bottom comes up dry, I'll be standing at the far end of the field with one bolt left and all the time in the world. The horn sounds. He's on me before I've finished the thought. I open the distance. That's the whole game. Keep him at range where the crossbow lives, but Darius doesn't close like a man runs. He closes like the ground shortens for him, mana flaring off his heels, and he's across the gap before my second bolt is knocked, and a lance of blunt force takes me square in the chest. The horn sounds his point. 1-0 the stands roar. That's the difference between Darius and every hound I've put down today. I read his shoulders and it didn't matter, because he was already there. He steps back, unhurried, and gives me that courtesy again. See? I do see. I see exactly how fast he closes, exactly how much that burst cost him, exactly the half-beat of stillness after he lands, before the mana crawls back to his hands. I'm down a point and I've never been happier because now I have the number I came for. Now I know the price of him. He comes again the same way. Because why wouldn't he? It worked. This time I don't try to outrun the close. I use the field. There's a low wall between us and I put it there on purpose, drift to it, and when he flares across the gap I'm already moving around its blind side, and his lance of force cracks stone where I was and not where I am. He has to correct. Correcting costs him a second burst. And there it is. The half-beat of stillness after, mana draining back to his hands, and in that half-beat I put a blunt bolt into his shoulder from 8 paces clean, and the horn sounds my point. 1-1. The stands make a different sound now. Darius looks at the bolt mark on his shoulder like he can't account for it. He spent 2 bursts and a lot of well to land nothing, and he ate a bolt for it. And for the first time all day the certainty on his face develops a hairline crack. He stops being courteous. Now he adjusts, because he's not stupid, he's the opposite of stupid. He stops charging blind. He starts using the field too, hurting me, cutting my lanes with bursts of force, closing the space I need to shoot, making the whole model ground smaller a wall at a time. He's spending mana faster, but he's spending it well, and I'm giving ground, and he backs me toward the field's edge where there's nowhere left to open distance. Then he flares in and I mistime the wall by a hair. A hair is all it takes with him, and his strike catches my flank. The horn sounds his point 1-2. Match point against me. The Wayland stands are on their feet. Down in the crew's corner I catch one flash of Garen's face, stricken, and I have to not look at it. Because here 1 point from losing everything I climbed for, back to the edge against a boy who's better than me at the thing we're doing. Here's where it gets decided whether I'm a good shot or a dangerous one. I stop retreating. I give him the win. I make it look like I've made the last mistake. I let my guard drop on my weak side, the flank he just scored on, and I let him see it, and I watch him take the bait. Because a boy who has never lost cannot resist the clean finish. He flares in with everything, a match-ending strike aimed at the opening I gave him, the biggest burst he's thrown all day, because he wants this over, and I'm not there. I drop under it, roll off the low wall, and his match winner detonates against empty stone with a crack that shakes the field. He spent the biggest burst of the duel on air, and now he's standing in the longest half-beat of stillness he's given me all match. Well running dry, mana crawling slow back to hands that suddenly aren't sure, and I come up off the roll with the crossbow already level and put a bolt into his chest from 6 paces. The horn sounds 2-2. Dead silence in the Wayland stands. Now he's afraid. I can see it in him, the thing I've been draining toward all match. The well's nearly empty. He's thrown his big bursts and they cost him, and I'm still here, 6 paces off, patient, a bolt on the string, and no bottom to my patience at all. For the first time in his gilded life, Darius Wayland is standing in front of something he cannot overpower, and he knows it, and the whole academy can see him know it. He has 1 burst left. Maybe. I can read the well in the set of his shoulders the way I read wind. 1 more, and then he's empty, and he knows that too. So he gathers it, everything he has left, all of it. 1 last strike to save the match, and his name and his father's face in the stands. And here's my choice. In the half-second before he throws, I could end this cruel. I've got the read. I know where the last strike's going before he does. I could slip it and put my bolt through something that hurts. His hand, his knee, sell it as the duel, break the golden heir's body in front of his father, and let him limp off the field ruined. Or I could take Mila's road even now, let him foul in his desperation, and hang him for it. There are a dozen ways to not just beat Darius, but destroy him, and the crowd would feast on everyone. But destroying him isn't winning. I worked that out a long time ago, on a cold night in a bottom bunk. A broken Darius is a martyr, an excuse, a thing his house can point to and call foul. But I want what this whole climb was for isn't to break him, it's to make him look up. To make him, of all people, know in his own bones that the charity boy was simply better, and acknowledge it, with nothing left to blame. So I don't do it cruel, I do it clean. He throws the last of his well, a desperate all-consuming strike, beautiful and doomed, and I've already read it, and I step inside it, close, closer than a marksman should ever be. So close his dying burst roars past my shoulder into nothing. And at 6 inches, with his well run dry, and his hands empty, and his eyes going wide, I don't put the bolt anywhere that breaks. I lay it gently dead center against his heart. The lightest touch of the whole match. The horn sounds 3-2. It's over. The charity boy is champion of the academy, and Darius Wayland has lost cleanly, fairly, in front of his father and his world, with nothing left to blame but the truth. Darius goes down. Not from a blow. I barely touched him, but because his legs simply stop holding a boy whose whole life just came apart clean. He ends up on one knee in the churned dirt of the model ground, empty, spent, and he looks up at me. For a heartbeat, the whole roaring academy falls away, and it's just the two of us. Exactly where we started 6 months ago, and exactly reversed. Darius Wayland, heir to a duke, first son of the first house, on his knee in the dirt, looking up at the charity boy he ordered, beaten and left for paperwork. And in his eyes there's no rage, no scheming, none of the cold arithmetic. Just the one thing I came back into this broken body to put there. He acknowledges it. I watch him do it. I watch a Wayland understand all the way down that he was beaten by a better man. On one knee in the dirt, looking up, Darius Wayland felt something he had no framework for. He had been raised to believe the world was arranged correctly. Blood on top, the rest below, and for 14 years the world had obliged him. Now he knelt spent before a commoner who had taken him apart, not with a gift of blood, but with patience and a wooden bolt. And the old arrangement did not merely feel wrong, it felt like a lie he had been told his whole life. He hated the boy. He could not stop looking at him, and underneath the hate, quiet and unwelcome and impossible to unsee, was the beginning of a thing the Waylands had never needed a word for: respect. I reached down. I'm not sure why. Maybe because the man I wanted to make look up isn't a thing I want to leave in the dirt. I offer Darius my hand. He stares at it. He doesn't take it, but he doesn't sneer at it either, and from a Wayland today, that's nearly an embrace. Then I look up at the high stands and I find the Duke. Duke Roland Wayland did not move. Around him 100 houses were on their feet, some cheering the upset, most simply stunned, but the Duke sat perfectly still under his banner, and watched his heir kneel in the dirt before a commoner, and did the coldest arithmetic of his long, cold life. The boy could not be beaten on the field, that much was settled now, in front of every peer in the kingdom, at the price of the Wayland name's shine. Very well. Roland had not held his house at the top for 30 years by fighting battles he could lose. If the charity boy could not be broken in the ring, he would be broken another way. Quietly, structurally, by the 1,000 levers a great house holds, and a commoner has never even heard of. Rigged trials, poisoned patronage, doors that shut before the boy reached them. The Duke rose at last and left the stands without a backward glance, already composing the letters that would begin it. He had come to watch a commoner be put in his place. He left having decided to spend the true weight of his house to do it. I don't see the Duke leave, but I feel the temperature of the whole thing change again, the way I felt it after the long mark, except heavier now, colder, a shadow with a name and 30 years of power behind it. Beating Darius in the ring was the easy part. I've just made an enemy who doesn't fight in rings. That evening, they re-ink the slab and the whole academy comes to read it, because everyone already knows what it will say. Kale, second on the wall. From 200th of 200 to second in 6 months. The charity boy carved one line from the top. One line, because there's still a name above mine, and it isn't Darius who's dropped to 4th and will spend the rest of his life climbing back toward a boy he can't beat. Everyone calls Darius the top of the board, but Darius is only the top of anyone who'll actually fight you. The real first name carved at the very peak of the slab belongs to a cadet I've never once seen compete. Not in the tournament, not in a duel, not ever. Raven. No house, no banner, no friends, a name the whole academy speaks in the lowered voice you save for weather that kills. First on the board and untouched, because nobody's ever been good enough to make him bother. The summit past the summit. I'll get there, but not tonight. Tonight belongs to the crew. We don't celebrate where the nobles can see. We take it back to the workshop that used to be the place people came to break Pip's things and is just ours now. And Mila's smuggled bread and something warm, and for a while nobody says the words board or Duke or the shadow coming for us. Aaron laughs so hard at something Lyra says that he knocks a shelf clean off the wall, and Pip won't stop turning the champion's crossbow over in his hands, like he can't believe he built the thing that did it. And Teo, who never talks, quietly tells one story about his border village that makes the whole room go still, and then warm. And I sit in the middle of it. The middle of a thing that's entirely mine, that I built out of the people the world threw away. And I let myself feel it just for tonight. 6 months ago, I woke in a broken body at the bottom of a wall, alone, with a name nobody would miss, and a whole academy that had agreed not to see me. Tonight, I'm the champion, second on the wall. A duke for an enemy, and a family for an army, and Darius Wayland somewhere in the dark, learning what it feels like to look up. The kid whose body this is, the real Kale, the one who cried alone at the scraps table, he'd never have believed it. So I believe it for him. We came a long way, kid. Both of us. Then I look at the door, and past it, north, where a duke is writing letters and armed men are burying their fires, and I know the warm part is short, but it's real, and it's mine, and I earned every inch of it in the light, looking up. tomorrow they can come. Being second on the wall changes what the academy offers you. A week ago I was furniture. Now instructors know my name. Cadets step aside in the corridor, and men I've never met send word they'd like to discuss my future. The academy has a track for a boy like me now, and it's a fast one. Individual trials, sponsored duels, a clean sprint from second to first while the whole aristocracy watches and decides which of them gets to own the commoner prodigy. All I have to do is take it, climb alone, be the legend by myself. I'm not going to. Here's the choice. And it's the same one I made over 11 coppers a lifetime ago, only with bigger numbers. I draw the top band now, 40 coppers a month and a line of credit at the quartermasters, more than this body has ever held. I could spend every coin of it, and every ounce of the academy's sudden interest on me. Better gear, better sponsors. A straight shot at Raven and the top of the wall. Solo, fast, mine alone, or I spend it on them. Because a soloist is one man, and one man can be isolated, discredited, and erased. And I've got a Duke running exactly that arithmetic right now. But a unit that's the best thing on this field, that the whole academy loves to watch, that half the lower cadets dream of joining. You can't quietly disappear that. And past the armor, it's the actual point. I never wanted to be the strongest man in the room. I wanted to build the strongest room. Kale alone was always going to hit a ceiling. A company doesn't have one. Every place I lift them is a place the whole thing rises. And there's no bottom to that. The way there's a bottom to any one hand, even mine. So I don't take the fast track. I file the papers to form a squad. The academy lets cadets register companies for the team trials. It's how they teach command. And mostly it's nobles registering their friends. I register 5 names from the bottom of the wall. Garen, Pip, Lyra, Teo, Mila, on paper a joke, the ox, the tinker, the fallen girl, the mute, the healer's apprentice. On the field, once I'm done with them, the 6 most dangerous cadets in this academy, because every one of them has spent a whole life being underestimated, and I've learned to build an army out of exactly that. I don't train them to be me, I train them to be parts of one thing. Teo goes out ahead, always. My eyes. I teach him to range a field before we ever set foot on it, to read where men can and can't move, to come back with a picture in his head that he lays into mine without a wasted word. He was born reading ground on the border. I just give him a reason and a direction. Nobody in the academy sees a battlefield before it starts. Teo does. Lyra is my second gun, and I build her into a real one. Paired shooting. She covers the lanes I can't. We clear a field in overlapping fire. One of us always loaded while the other draws. She was a dead shot, furious with nowhere to point it. Now she has a partner, a purpose, and a rank that climbs every week. And the Fury's turned into something better, precision with a person behind it. She knows the noble's world from the inside too, every debt and grudge and marriage, and that's a weapon of its own. Garen is the anchor, not a brawler. I never make him a brawler. I teach him to hold a line so the shooters can work behind it, to be the fixed point the whole formation turns on, to shield Mila while she works and Pip while he thinks. The boy who spent his life terrified of his own strength finally has a shape for it, not a weapon that hurts, a wall that protects. I've never watched a person grow into himself the way Garen grows into that. Pip is the armory in the mind. He kits the whole squad, matched bolts, tuned laths, signal whistles, a dozen small clever things nobody else thought to build. And he reads the other teams for me, their patterns, their supply, their tells, laying out the odds like a man laying out tools. Give the boy they mocked for being useless a company to outfit and outthink, and he stops being small for good. Mila keeps us alive and keeps us informed. Field medic and the best ears in the academy, both. Nobody bleeds out on my watch and nobody moves against us that she doesn't hear coming, and I command. I'm the eye that sees all of it at once, the hand that sets each piece where it does the most, the shot that finishes what the machine builds. Recon to shooters, to anchor to medic, all of it, one motion. All of it mine. The first time we run clean, a full mock engagement, Teo's read into Lyra's overwatch, into Garen's line, into my finishing shot. The whole thing inside 40 seconds without a word spoken. I catch the judges on the ridge going quiet, and I know we've stopped being 6 strays and become one weapon. Corvin sees it before anyone. He finds me after that first clean run, and for once the old man almost smiles. You're not training cadets, he says. You're training soldiers. He's right, and he knows I know it. So he starts coming to our drills. 4th bell before the world wakes. The whole squad now, not just me. And he stops teaching us cadet games. He teaches us the real thing, how men actually break under fire, how a small unit holds against a big one, how to move at night, how to feed yourself in the field, how to kill cleanly and keep your people alive doing it. Things the academy saves for the officers. Course poured into 6 strays at 4th bell, because Corvin has decided, for reasons he won't say, that we're going to need them sooner than the timetable says. He also does the one thing that matters most against a duke. He sponsors us, officially, puts his own name on our registration as patron. It's a small thing on paper, and an enormous thing in fact, because now to move against the strays, the house has to move against a decorated field officer too, and even a Wayland thinks twice about that. Strays, that's what we are now. The nobles coined it as a sneer, Kale's Strays, the gutter company, the boy who collects the things nobody else wants, and we took it and stitched it on and wore it. Because they were right, and being right about that is our whole strength. The lower cadets started saying it as a joke and now say it like a hope. There's a waiting list to join a squad made of the 6 lowest names on the wall. That's how a legend actually starts, not with the win, with the meaning. But the Duke is working too, and he doesn't fight in rings. 200 miles south, in a study that smelled of old money, Duke Roland Wayland read the reports on the Charity Boys Company and did not raise his voice, because men who raise their voices have already lost control of something. The boy had built a wall of his own, a decorated sponsor, a beloved unit, a legend the Academy was falling in love with, and Roland respected it the way one respects a well-set trap. So he did not attack it head-on. He gave quiet instructions. Certain trial masters would find the stray's scores harder to award than they used to be. Certain rumors that the commoner drilled his followers like a cult, that a lowborn boy commanding noble blood was against the natural order, and perhaps against the crown, would find their way into the right ears. And certain members of the boy's little company would receive private, generous offers to remember where they came from. Duke did not need to break the boy. He needed only to make everyone around him afraid, one at a time, until the boy stood alone again. That was how great houses had always broken men too talented to beat. I feel it start inside the month. Trials we win clean, comebacks scored against us on technicalities. A drill we execute perfectly is marked insufficient discipline. Whispers I can't trace that the strays are a cult, that a commoner giving orders to Avant is unnatural, that maybe the whole thing wants watching. It's clever, it's patient, and it's exactly what Corvin warned me a great house does. I can outshoot any cadet alive. I can't outvote a Duke's money in a room I'm not allowed into. And then they go for the crew. Lyra comes to me one night with her jaw set and a letter in her hand. It's from an agent of the house, no name, all silk. Her family lost everything 3 generations back. The Waylands know it to the copper. And here's the offer. Laid out kind as a knife, the house will restore the Vaunt name, pay the old debts, put her family back where blood says they belong. All of it. The whole life stolen from her, if she'll simply keep them informed about what the charity boy is building. Just watch him. Just talk. That's all. I read it, and I hand it back. And I don't say anything, because this isn't my choice to make. It's hers. I decided a long time ago I'd never hold a person the way the nobles hold people, by the throat, by the need, by the thing they can't refuse. If she takes it, I lose my second gun, and I'll understand exactly why. And I'll never blame her for wanting her life back. Lyra watches me not tell her what to do, and something in her face closes like a door, not against me, against them. They think I'm for sale, she says quiet. They think we're all for sale, because everyone they've ever known was. She tears the letter in half, then in half again. My house has been nothing for 3 generations. You're the first person who ever looked at me and saw something worth building. They can keep the name. She drops the pieces. I'm a stray. She's not the only one they tried. I find out later they went to all of them. Pip's family, Mila's post, even Teo offered a pardon for some border trouble I never knew he carried. Every single one said no. Not because I asked, I never asked, but because the house offered them their old lives back, and every one of them had decided the new one was better. You cannot buy a person away from the first place they ever belonged. The Duke, for all his money, never learned that, because he has never once in his life belonged anywhere he wasn't already paid to be. That's the night it stops being a squad and becomes a family. We don't say anything grand about it. We're not that kind of people. But that night, in the workshop, after the letters are torn and the offers refused, something settles over the 6 of us that none of us has words for. Garen, who was flogged and told he was a monster, sits shoulder to shoulder with Lyra, who was told she was nothing, across from Pip, who was told he was useless, and Teo, who was told to disappear, and Mila, who was told to keep stitching and stay furniture, and none of them left. The Duke offered them their whole stolen lives back, and they looked at this cold stone room full of the Academy's rejects, and they chose this instead. I've had squads before. In the other life, the one that ended under the mortars, I led good men and buried a lot of them, and I never once let myself love one, because loving them got them killed and got me useless. I broke that rule tonight without deciding to. Sitting in the middle of 5 people the world threw away, who were handed everything to leave and stayed anyway. I understand that somewhere back there, this stopped being an operation and became the first home either of us, me or the boy whose body this is, has ever actually had. I don't tell them that. But I look around the room and I let it in. All my lives, I've been alone in the work. Not anymore. These are my people. That isn't a tactic. It's just true. Corvin breaks the warm part, and he doesn't mean to. He catches me alone the next dawn, after the others have gone, holding a dispatch, his face older than I've seen it. You remember what I told you about the Northern Line? He says. It isn't a question. It's worse than I said. The reports coming down aren't skirmishes anymore. Whole border villages gone quiet. Patrols that don't come back. The masters are calling it bandits and hard winters. He looks north, through the wall, like he can see it. It isn't bandits. I fought bandits. Bandits don't bury their fires. Far to the north, past the marker fence in the last quiet village, an army that flew no colors moved south through country the kingdom had forgotten to watch. It was not large yet. It did not need to be. Its scouts had spent a season counting the realm's soft places, the thin patrols, the distracted capital, the great houses busy tearing at each other over rank and gold, and its captains had made a simple calculation. A kingdom that drills its children to hold a beacon till dawn has forgotten what it costs to hold a border. They buried their fires and came on, unhurried, and no one at the top was looking their way. And there it is. The same detail read past the marker fence, the same cold fact I filed away and never stopped turning. I put it together the way I put everything together, all at once. Armed men who move like soldiers, deep inside inside a kingdom that thinks it's safe. Border villages going silent, patrols vanishing. A house so busy playing politics with a child of 10 that nobody at the top is looking north. The academy drilling boys to hold a beacon till dawn while something out past the fence drills men to take one. How long? I ask him. I don't know, Corvin says, but when it comes, it won't come to the timetable. And these boys, he means everyone, the whole gilded academy. These boys think war is a game with a horn at the end. He looks at me and there's that thing in his eyes again. The one that's been there since the long mark, the suspicion he's never said out loud. You don't. I don't know how a boy your age knows what war costs, but you do, and I think you're going to need to. I don't answer him. There's nothing to say that wouldn't give me away. Standing there in the gray dawn with a decorated soldier who's afraid, a family asleep behind me that I'd burn the world to keep, a duke's shadow to the south, and something worse gathering to the north. I feel the whole shape of what's coming, and it isn't a tournament, and it isn't a duel, and it won't end with a horn. I built the strays to climb a wall and settle a score. I'm starting to think I built them for the thing past the wall instead. Good, because when it comes, and Corvin's right, it's coming. The strongest room in this academy is going to be the one full of the people everyone else threw away. Let them bury their fires. Mine isn't going out. The second field exam isn't one night. It's 4 days in the deep country north, and it's built to hurt. They march us further out than any exam I've heard of. 4 days in the high wild past the marker fence. Real survival, real weather. Teams scattered across a dozen sectors to hold points and run objectives with the judges spread thin between them. And when the assignments come down, the strays draw the farthest, coldest, most exposed sector on the map. Sector 9, the one nobody wants. A full day's march from the nearest patrol, the one that just happens to sit right up against the border. I know exactly what it is. It's the Duke's hand, the same quiet pressure that's been fixing our scores and whispering we're a cult, reaching all the way out here to hand my squad the worst ground on the field and call it chance. A handicap, a place to fail. He has no idea what he's actually done. Neither do I. Not yet. The country up here doesn't care about the academy's rules. The first day teaches everyone what real means. A storm rolls down off the northern peaks, cold enough to kill a boy who stops moving, and half the pampered teams learn for the first time that weather is a thing that wants them dead. Strays don't blink. Teo reads the sky and finds a shelter before the worst of it. Pip's rigged our kit for cold. Garen breaks trail through the drifts so the smaller ones don't have to. We're built for this. Most of them aren't, and the wild has teeth of its own. Second night, something big and starving comes out of the tree line at the edge of our camp. A ridge cat, all muscle and winter hunger. And it's fast. And it's real, and there's no horn to stop it. I put 2 bolts through its eye before it reaches Mila, and it drops thrashing in the snow, and the whole squad stands there breathing hard in the dark, because that was the first time the exercise tried to actually kill one of us. I catch Lyra's face. She's understanding something. That could have had me, she says. Yeah, I tell her. The mountain doesn't know it's a game. I don't know yet how right I am. Third day, Teo comes back from a forward sweep, and he isn't frowning this time. He's white. Kale. He can barely get it out. There's men, next valley, not cadets. Men, grown, armed, real steel, moving in a file. No colors, same as the tracks. 6, 7 of them, and they're not lost. They're hunting. And there's a cadet team camped right in their path, the little ones. First years, they don't know. And the whole thing I've carried since the marker fence lands at once. Cold and total. The buried fires. The silent villages. The vanishing patrols. Corvin's face in the gray dawn. It was never a maybe. The border broke, and a piece of the real war just walked into a children's game, and a team of first years is asleep in its path with nothing but blunt bolts, and no idea the world stopped being safe. Here's the choice, and it's the worst one I've faced in either life. The exam has rules, and they're clear. Stay in your sector, blunt gear only. Anything real, you signal the judges and fall back and let the overseeing officers handle it. The protocol exists for a reason. We're cadets, children, and those are veterans with live steel and mana, and a straight fight gets us all killed. The nearest patrol is a full day out. The signal flare brings them in hours, and the first years in that valley have minutes. Follow the rules, signal, fall back, stay in the game, and I keep my squad safe and my exam score clean, and I let a team of 10-year-olds get cut apart in the snow because the timetable said help was a day away. Or I throw the whole exercise in the fire. Take real command. Fight actual soldiers with blunt bolts and terrain and everything Corvin poured into us at 4th bell. Break every rule of the exam. Forfeit the score. Hand the Duke all the ammunition he could want. Maybe get my own people killed. To buy those first years the minutes the rules won't give them. It isn't a choice. It was never going to be a choice. The board is a game. Those kids are real. Gear up, I tell the strays. Real gear. Pip, how lethal can you make our bolts in 10 minutes? Pip's already moving. Give me the good broadheads and the field forge. Not many enough. Then we're not cadets anymore. As of right now, this is a fight. Everybody does exactly what I say, exactly when I say it, and everybody comes home. Move. I don't fight 7 armed veterans head on. I've never won a fight I could avoid, and I'm not starting with children's lives on the table. I use everything. Teo puts the enemy's exact position and pace in my head. The valley narrows to a throat between 2 rock shoulders, the same ground that ate Halden's team, except this time it's real. I put Lyra high on one shoulder, me high on the other, overlapping fire down the throat. Garen and Pip pull the first years out of the camp and back to hard cover quiet before the enemy arrives. Mila sets up behind the line with everything she has, because I already know we're going to need her, and I take the storm as the 7th member of the squad. The wind's up, the lights failing, the snow's moving, and men hunting soft targets don't expect to be the ones walked into a kill box. 7 men came down the valley in the failing light, and their captain was not worried. They were the forward hand of something much larger, sent south to count patrols and cut throats and spread the quiet, and in a season of easy work they had met nothing that could fight back. Sleeping villages, green militia, a kingdom with its eyes turned inward. The captain saw the little camp ahead and marked it for what it looked like. Children playing soldier, an afternoon's grim work, no more. He did not know the ground above him held a boy who had killed more men than the captain had, in another life, with another face. He did not know he had walked his 7 veterans into the one valley in the whole north where the children shot back. He would not get the chance to learn much of it. We hit them in the throat. I take the captain first, because you always take the one giving orders. A sharpened bolt from the high shoulder. And it isn't a horn that sounds. It's the wet final sound of a man dying. And the valley isn't a game anymore for anyone in it. Lyra's fire and mine cross in the throat, and 2 more go down before they understand they're in a trap. But these are veterans, not cadets, and they don't panic. They scatter to cover, and the mana comes up, real fire now, not pulled, and the rock where I'm perched cooks, and I'm already moving. And this is the part the exercises never taught. Real enemies shoot back, and they mean it. It goes bad the way real things go bad. Fast, ugly, out of anyone's hands. One of the raiders breaks toward the first year's cover and Garen meets him. Garen, who I built to be a wall, steps in front of children and takes a blade meant for them across the arm. Real steel, real blood, and holds anyway, because that's what he is now. Teo darts to drag a straggling first year clear and catches a mana lash across the side that puts him down in the snow, and I hear Mila scream his name, and I can't look. I can't look. I have a valley to win, and I don't get everyone. There's a first year, a small boy named Fen, 10 years old, who froze the way children freeze, who ran the wrong way in the chaos because nobody ever taught him the world can kill you, and one of the raiders reaches him before Garen can close, and before my bolt can cross the distance, and I'm a half-second too slow. Half a second. The same half-second that used to be the whole distance in the old life too. Fen goes down in the snow and doesn't get up. I put a bolt through the man who did it a heartbeat later. But a heartbeat late is the entire distance between alive and not, and I've always known that, and it doesn't help at all. We finish the rest. It doesn't take long once the captain's down and the trap's shut. 7 came into the valley and none walk out, and my hands did most of it. Cold and certain and exactly as good at this as they've always been. It's the first time I've killed with these small hands and they don't shake. That's the thing that unsettles the part of me that's still a little bit kale. The man knows this work down to the bone. The boy is 10. Tonight the man won. The way he always does when it counts. And something in the boy goes quiet, understanding for the first time exactly what he's living inside. The snow comes down on all of it. The dead raiders, the dead child, Garen bleeding, Teo gray, and shaking under Mila's hands. The storm doesn't care. The horn doesn't sound, because there is no horn out here. That was the whole lesson, and it cost a 10-year-old's life to teach it. The surviving first years huddle in the cover, shaking, staring at me. Not at the champion of the tournament, not at the charity boy who broke the golden teams, at the person who just killed 7 grown men in the snow to save their lives, and couldn't save Fen's. Something in how the academy sees me dies in that valley with him. Whatever I was before, a curiosity, a prodigy, a story, I'm something else now, and every one of them can see it. I'm the thing that stands between children and the dark, and they've learned what I learned a long time ago. It isn't a game, and the person who does it pays for it. Mila saves Teo. Barely. Her hands are steady even now, even crying, and she stops the bleeding and gets him breathing right. And later she'll tell me another minute and she couldn't have. Garen won't let anyone near his arm until every child is warm and safe. That's Garen. My squad held. My squad came home, but not clean. Never clean again. One of the first years, a girl no older than Fen creeps over while Mila works and just stands beside me. Not speaking, because there's nowhere else in the whole white world that feels safe and I'm the reason the rest of them are still breathing. I put a hand on her shoulder. I don't have anything to say that a child should ever have to hear, so I just stand there and let her not be alone. It's the only mercy this valley has left in it. Corvin comes at a dead run with the patrol an hour later. Too late for the fight and too late for Fen, and I watch a hard old soldier take in the valley, the raiders in no colors, the dead child, my bleeding people, and go pale, because he's the one man out here besides me who understands exactly what it means. Master Corvin knelt in the red snow beside a first year he had failed to protect, and felt the last of his hope go cold. He had warned them. He had stood in the master's hall and said the northern line was breaking, and been told he was an old man frightened of winter. Now a child was dead a day inside their tidy safe zone, killed by soldiers who flew no flag. And the proof he'd begged them to see was written in the snow at his knees. He looked up at the boy, the charity boy, who had taken command when no horn could save anyone, who had fought live steel with sharpened cadet bolts and won, who stood there now with a dead man's blood on him and a dead child at his feet and did not look 10 years old at all. Corvin had suspected for a long time that the boy was something the Academy had no box for. Now he knew, and the knowing frightened him nearly as much as the war, because whatever Kale was, the kingdom was going to need it, and no one had earned the right to ask. I stand in the snow with Fen at my feet and I do the thing I do. I put it together. 7 raiders, this deep, this bold, means they weren't scouting anymore. They were the edge of something already moving. Behind these 7 are 70, and behind the 70 is the thing that's been burying its fires and swallowing villages all season, while a kingdom argued about a wall, and a duke played politics with a child of 10. The war isn't coming, the war is here. It just killed its first child inside the Academy's own fence, and I'm the only one who was ready. And I'm 10 years old, and it cost Fen his life to make anyone believe it. And it'll cost me too in the smaller, uglier way. I broke the exam. I went off scenario, armed my squad with live bolts, took command I wasn't given, and turned a children's exercise into a battlefield. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I'd trade the whole board for the first years who lived. But I've just handed the Duke everything he's been fishing for. Insubordination, recklessness, a commoner who arms children and ignores the rules. He'll dress the truth in whatever costume ruins me best, and he'll have witnesses, and it won't matter that I was right. Being right has never once saved me from the people who'd rather I wasn't. But I look at Tio Gray under Mila's hands, and Garen bleeding and standing anyway, and the first years alive because we were there, and Fen who isn't, and I know the shape of everything now. The game is over. It ended in a valley in the snow. The second something real walked through the fence, and a horn didn't sound. From here on, it's not about the board or the tournament or even the score I've been climbing toward for 6 months. It's about the thing coming south, and who's going to stand in front of it when it arrives, and how many Fens die first because the men at the top were looking the other way. I came into this body to climb a wall and settle a score. I'm putting that score down now. There's a bigger one coming, written in a language I already speak, and I'm the only one in this whole academy who's read it before. Let them call it bandits one more time. Fen's blood is in the snow. The war has a face now, and I've already killed 7 of it. I'm going to have to kill a great deal more. They bury Fen on a gray morning, and by afternoon the Academy has decided it never happened. Officially, there was an incident with bandits in Sector 9. Officially, a cadet died in an accident compounded by an unauthorized engagement. Officially, and this is the Duke's fingerprints all over it. The whole thing was the fault of a certain commoner who armed children with live weapons and turned an exercise into a bloodbath. Not the 7 soldiers who came through an open border to cut throats. Me. The Academy would rather have a reckless charity boy to blame than a war to admit, and the House is glad to hand them one, because a reckless charity boy is exactly the story they've been building for 6 months. Corvin stood in the Master's Hall with the truth and the dead child and the Raiders' colorless gear, and they thanked him for his concern and moved on. Bandits. Hard winter. Nothing to see. A kingdom can look away from almost anything if the alternative is being afraid. I don't argue. Arguing is what they want. The loud commoner, insubordinate, exactly on script. I put Fen in the ground and I keep his name, and I let the grief become the thing. Grief becomes if you let it fuel. It's grief that opens the door. In the end, grief, and a thing Corvin's been circling for months. I'm on the range at 4th Bell like always, and something's different in me since the valley, and I can't name it. I put a bolt through the master plate at 200, and as it flies, I feel the shot, not see it, feel it. The air is a readable thing. The wind is a shape I could put my hand on, and there's a faint warm nothing in my own chest that I've been told my whole life a commoner doesn't have. It's there, a thimble of it, a whisper, nothing you could throw a flame with. But I can feel it, and I can feel it in the world too, in the wind, and in Corvin, standing behind me, a low, steady ember of the thing the nobles carry in floods. Corvin goes very still. Say what you feel, he says quietly. So I do. The wind is a shape, the manna in the air, the ember in him. The old man closes his eyes a moment, and when he opens them there's something in his face I've never seen. Recognition. And a little grief of his own. I hoped I was wrong about you, he says, and I hoped I was right. He sets down the bolt in his hand. You know why I could see what you were before anyone? Why an old range master took an interest in a charity boy at the bottom of a wall. He holds up his hand and I feel it. The ember in him flares, just slightly, a thin thread of mana crawling to his fingertips. Nothing like a noble's blast, a candle beside their bonfires. Because I'm a commoner too. Rose on skill, the hard way, 30 years ago, and I've got the same thimble you've got. The path nobody's supposed to be able to walk. He explains it plain, no wonder in it. The nobles have mana in floods and use it like floods. Force, fire, walls of it, crude and enormous, because when you have that much you never learn finesse. Commoners have almost none, a trace, a thimble, and so they're told they have nothing, and never learn to use it at all. But the trace is there in everyone, and a rare few, the ones who study mana instead of inheriting it, who think in precision because power was never on the table, learn to do with a thimble what the lords can't do with an ocean. Not throw it, aim it. It's not a bloodline, Corvin says. It can't be. It's earned by understanding the thing better than the people born to it, which is why it lives in commoners who had to think, and almost never in lords who never did. He looks at me. I walked a few steps of it, Enough to read a field before it starts. Enough to know a true shot from a lucky one. You'll walk further than I ever did. You already think in precision. You've been shooting like this without the mana for 6 months. Now you've got the thimble too. God help them. And here's where it becomes mine. Because I don't learn things slow. I don't have power. And I never will. So I don't reach for power. I reach for the one bolt, the single shot, and I feel the thimble. And I do the thing no noble ever thinks to do, because they've never had to make one shot count. I put the whisper of mana onto the bolt itself, not to make it strong, to make it perfect, to let it ignore the wind, hold its line past where any unaided shot could. And when Pip rigs me a training ward from a downed noble's gear, to punch clean through a mana shield that should stop any bolt, because a shot carrying its own thread of mana isn't stopped by a wall of it. It parts it. The first time I put a bolt through a mana shield at 100 paces, Corvin doesn't say a word. He just looks at the hole in the ward, then at me, and I watch a man do the arithmetic on what I'll be able to do to anyone who ever thought a shield made them safe. It's not a flood. It'll never be a flood. It's a thimble aimed. But a sniper never needed a flood. A sniper needs one shot that does the impossible, and now I've got it. The commoner's path earned in the dark with grief for fuel, a thing the lords can't dismiss because it's the one currency they respect. Power. I'm not just the boy who outthinks them anymore. By their own measure, the only one they've ever cared about. I'm stronger than the world now too. Not by blood. Never by blood. By understanding the thing they were handed and never bothered to learn. Fitting. It's the whole story of me in a single bolt. 200 miles south. The Duke stops being patient. Duke Roland Wayland read the newest report. Champion, war survivor, and now impossibly whispers of a commoner with a mana gift, and for the first time in 30 years of quiet control, felt something close to fear. The boy was not slowing. Every move to contain him had been turned into fuel. The rigged scores, the whispers, the offers to his followers, the charity boy had absorbed all of it and grown. And now one thing stood between him and the top of the wall, the final trial, and the one cadet who might beat him, the genius Raven. So Roland made his last move and made it total. He would rig the finale itself. Raven's ground, Raven's terms, judges the house owned, a scenario built for the commoner to fail. He would use the Sector 9 dead child to bar the boy's squad from the field for insubordination, stripping the charity boy of the family he'd built and forcing him to face the genius alone. And to be certain, he would go at the squad one last time, not with coin. Coin had failed, but with ruin, manufactured charges, revoked pardons, expulsions held over their heads, unless they walked away from the boy before the trial. Isolate him, strip him, break him alone in public where the whole kingdom would watch the natural order restored. The Duke did not enjoy it. He simply did not intend to lose his house to a child. It comes down a week before the finale, and it's everything at once. The terms of the final trial are posted, and they're a masterpiece of quiet cruelty. Me against Raven, the one cadet nobody's ever beaten. One-on-one on ground the masters have chosen. Under a scenario I'm shown too late to prepare, judged by a panel I already know is bought. And in the same stroke, a ruling on Sector 9. The strays are found unfit for the final exercise. For their conduct in the valley barred from competing, my squad struck from the field. I'm to face the genius alone, on his ground, deck stacked. Family locked out. And then the threats reach the crew. This time it isn't silk and offers. It's ruin. Pip is shown manufactured charges that could end him. Teo's border pardon is suddenly under review. Lyra's family, what little is left of it, is threatened with the last thing they have to lose. Each of them privately, given the same choice. Walk away from the charity boy before the finale, publicly, and the ruin goes away. Stay, and it doesn't. But the house makes one mistake, and its name is Darius. Darius Wayland had spent 6 months learning to hate the commoner honestly, the clean hate of a man beaten fairly, which is a kind of respect wearing armor. He had wanted to face the boy again someday, in the ring, at his own full strength, and settle it the way it was meant to be settled. With skill in the light. What he had not wanted, what turned his stomach as he read his father's plans laid out in a study that smelled of old money, was this. Rigged ground, bought judges, a dead child used as a lever. A family of the Academy's rejects threatened into abandoning the one place they belonged. Darius had been raised to believe the Waylands stood at the top because they were better. Watching his father win by ruining a boy he could not beat, he understood all the way down that they stood at the top because they were willing to do this, and that the commoner who had climbed out of the dirt with nothing but skill and never once fought dirty even when Darius handed him the chance, was the better man and always had been. So Darius did the first genuinely honorable thing of his gilded life. He copied his father's instructions, sealed them, and sent them to the one person who could turn them into a weapon. The letter reaches Mila first, because of course it does, and she brings it to me white-faced. Darius Wayland's own hand, his father's whole scheme laid bare. The rigged panel, the bought masters, the deliberate use of Fenn's death, the coordinated threats against my crew, everything. I could burn the house down with this. It's the exact thing Mila offered me at the tournament, handed to me now by a Wayland, proof enough to ruin a Duke. And I think about it. I do. Standing there with the paper that could break the man who spent all year trying to break me. But I don't need to ruin him. I need to beat him. Same as always. So I don't take it to the scandal sheets. I take it quietly to the people who can't afford the scheme to be true. The visiting officers here for the finale, the Crown's men. the handful of masters not yet in the house's pocket, and Corvin, whose word as a decorated officer carries weight even a duke respects. I don't accuse, I just make sure the right people are holding proof that the finale is rigged. The Sector 9 ruling is a lie, and a great house is threatening cadets to fix a children's trial. Then I let them do the math on what it costs to let it stand with witnesses watching now. It works the way exposure always works when you aim it instead of shouting it. The ruling on the strays quietly reverses. My squad reinstated, the charges dropped, the threats withdrawn because ruin only works in the dark, and I've turned the lights on. The bot panel is quietly reshuffled, watched now by Crown's men who know exactly what was attempted. The house's last move, its total move, comes apart in its hands, exposed and turned, using its own heir's evidence. That's the face slap, and it's the biggest structural one yet, because this time I didn't just beat a plot. I turned the Duke's own son against it, and there is nothing a great house fears more than that. But here's the thing, the house got half right, and here's my choice. Even exposed, even reshuffled, the finale is still stacked. Clearing my squad's names doesn't change the terms. It's still me against Raven one-on-one. On ground the masters chose before I was watching, in a scenario built to break me. The Crown's men will keep the judging honest now, but honest judging of a rigged scenario is still a rigged scenario. I could refuse it. I've got the standing now, the proof, the sympathy. I could protest, demand fair ground, take the high road, and no one would blame me, and I'd forfeit the one thing I actually came for. Because a fair win on fair ground is a win the house can still whisper away. Lucky terms, kind judges, an off day. But a win on their ground, under their scenario, against the one cadet they swear can't be beaten, with the whole kingdom watching and the deck stacked against me by their own hand. That's a win nobody can ever spin. That's the win that ends it. The bigger the disadvantage, the more total the victory, the safer the small body that wins it. So I take the enemy's field on purpose. Same as every time it's mattered. Give me the stacked deck. Give me their ground and their genius and their bot scenario. I'll beat it in the light with everyone watching. So completely there's no story left to tell but the true one. I accept the terms. I tell the masters, all of them, as they stand. And I watch the ones in the house's pocket realize they've just been handed exactly what they wanted, and have no idea it's the worst thing that could have happened to them. That night I stand in front of the great slab by the gate, the way I did the first night, and I read it. 6 months ago I stood here in bandages and read my own name scraped at the very bottom. 200th of 200. Charity case. Dead son of a dead soldier, a body beaten half to death by boys who thought a corpse was paperwork. Alone in the coldest corner of the barracks with a name nobody would miss. Tonight I read it near the top second. Champion. A squad the academy loves and fears. A decorated soldier at my back. A duke's own heir turned against his father. A gift the nobles swore a commoner couldn't have, and one name left above mine. From the bottom of the wall to one line off the summit. In half a year. On nothing but skill and the people the world threw away. The kid whose body this is couldn't have dreamed it. I dreamed it for him, that first cold night. Now here it is, carved in stone where the light reaches. One name left, one trial. Then the top of the wall that had us scraped at the bottom. The strays come find me at the slab because they always know where I am. We don't talk about the odds. We've never once won by talking about the odds. We stand at the slab in the dark, the 6 of us, and Pip breaks the quiet the way only Pip can. I've built you something for the finale. It'll punch through anything Raven's got. You're going to love it. Garen, whose arm is healing, just says, whatever the ground is, I'll hold my piece of it. Tio, still moving careful from the manalash, but on his feet, I'll have his measure before you walk in. I always do. Lyra, and when you need a second gun that isn't there, remember we drilled the shot you'll have to make alone. You've got it. You've had it since the valley. And Mila, quiet, the one who's kept us all breathing. We're off the field, but we're not gone. We'll be exactly where you need us. We always are. I look at them. 5 people the world scraped to the bottom of a wall, who a duke offered everything to leave, and who chose ruin instead, standing with me in the dark before the biggest fight of 6 lives. Whatever happens tomorrow, I tell them, and I mean it the way I've never meant anything. We did this. All of it. From the bottom of that wall to one line off the top. Nobody handed us a thing. We took it. I look at each of them. One more. Every one of you where you're meant to be, and I'll make the shot. Nobody cheers. We're not that kind of people. But something passes between the 6 of us in the dark that's worth more than a cheer. The quiet certainty of a unit that knows its shape. Tomorrow I walk onto the enemy's ground, alone by their design, to face the one cadet nobody's ever beaten, with a stacked deck and a bot scenario, and the whole kingdom watching. Good. I've got a thimble of mana aimed like a blade, a family exactly where I need them, and 6 months of climbing out of the dark that taught me the only lesson that ever mattered. They should have finished me when I was cheap. I'm not cheap. I'm not alone, and I don't miss. Let's go take the top of the wall. The whole kingdom comes to watch me lose to Raven. They build the final trial the way the house wanted it. A walled arena, tight, close, no distance, no cover, no terrain to work. The house chose this ground to strip me of everything I'm good at. The range, the ambush, the field a sniper needs to breathe. In here, it's close quarters, and close quarters belongs to Raven, and everyone in the stands knows it. That's the point. That's the whole rigged scenario, and I walked into it with my eyes open because a win in here is a win nobody can ever take back. The stands are packed to the walls, the whole academy, the visiting houses, the crown's men who watch the judging like hawks now, and somewhere among them the Duke, structurally beaten, his conspiracy exposed, reduced to watching the thing he tried to prevent happen in the open. My squad's barred from the field, but they're here, exactly where I need them. and I don't have to look to know it. And Raven, he walks out alone the way he does everything. No second, no crew, no house at his back. Raven has never needed anyone for anything in his life, and it shows in the way he stands, easy and complete and entirely alone. Nobody knows much about him. Orphan, some say others, a bloodline so old it forgot its own name. What everyone knows is this: he has never lost. Not a duel, not a trial, not once, and he's never had to try. He's the summit past the summit, the name at the very top of the wall that nobody's ever been good enough to make him defend. He looks at me across the arena, and there's none of Darius's contempt in it, none of the Lord's sneer. Just a clear, honest, assessing calm, the look of a man who's been alone at the top so long he's forgotten what a real fight feels like, wondering without much hope whether the charity boy might finally be won. They rigged this ground for you to lose, Raven says. Flat, honest. I didn't ask them to. I don't need it. A pause. Make me work. Nobody's made me work in 3 years. I'd like to remember what it feels like. And that's the difference. Laid out in the first 10 seconds, Darius was a tormentor I came to crush. Raven is the real thing, and he's honest. And some part of me respects him before we've thrown a single strike. Here's what I know walking in. I can't out-mana him. Nobody can. Where the other lords have floods of crude power, Raven has a flood in the control both, precision and power, the complete duelist. Everything I'm at range except he's got the ocean I never will. On this ground, up close by every measure that's supposed to matter, he beats me. Except the measures that matter aren't the ones the house counts. I've got a thimble of mana aimed like a blade, a mind that's read harder men than Raven in another life. Tio's measure of him whispered to me before I walked in. Pip's weapon built to punch through anything, and a whole climb out of the dark that forged me into something no single gift could. Raven is the best in the world at one thing. I'm the sum of everything I built to get here. We're about to find out which wins the horn sounds. He's better than Darius, and he proves it in 3 seconds. Darius closed like the ground shortened for him. Raven closes like the ground was never there, mana refined to a whisper of itself. No waste, no flare, just there, inside my guard before I finish reading shoulders that tell me nothing because he's too controlled to have a tell. A blunt strike, precise, dead center. The horn sounds his point. 1-0. He steps back, unhurried, no gloat in it, just a flicker of something almost like hope. Better than that, he says. Come on. He's right. That was me, a step behind the best fighter I've ever faced, on his ground, in the one arena built to take away everything I'm good at. And I've never been more awake in my life, because a fight you might actually lose is the only kind worth winning. So I stop fighting him like a cadet, and I start fighting him like the thing I've become. I open the thimble. For the first time in a fight, I feel the mana instead of just the shoulders. Raven's refined ember gathering a half beat before he moves. The shape of his intent written in a language the nobles never learned because they never had to read it. He flares in, and this time I'm already gone, because I felt it before his body did it. And when he throws up a mana ward to cover his reset, the reflex of a boy who's never had to worry about a bolt getting through, I put a bolt through it, through the ward. The one shot that carries its own thread of mana and parts a wall of it, straight through the shield that stopped every attack he's ever faced, and it taps him clean. The horn sounds 1-1. Raven looks down at the mark on his chest and at the hole in his own ward, and something happens on his face that I don't think has happened in years. He smiles. For the first time in 3 years, Raven felt his heart move. He had been alone at the top so long the top had stopped meaning anything. He'd beaten everyone the Academy could put in front of him, and beaten them so easily that winning had gone quiet and gray. A thing that happened to him rather than a thing he did. No house, no friends, no rival, no reason. Only the endless hollow certainty of being the best in a world that couldn't touch him. And now a commoner half his size had put a bolt through a ward no one had ever pierced, using a scrap of mana the way Raven had never once thought to use his ocean. And Raven understood, with something absurdly like joy, that he was finally actually in a fight. He did not want to crush the boy. He wanted to see how far the boy could push him. For the first time in 3 years, Raven stopped holding back. Not to end it, but because a real fight deserved everything he had. He stops being gentle with me, and it's the most respectful thing anyone's ever done. Now I see why nobody's ever beaten him. He adapts to the gift inside 2 exchanges, moves so I can't get a clean line to his wards, layers them, changes his rhythm so my mana read is chasing a target that won't hold still, brings the full terrifying weight of the complete duelist to bear. He drives me around the tight arena the house built to trap me, and there's nowhere to run and nothing to trap, and no distance to steal, and he catches me. A clean strike, honest and earned. Horn sounds his point. 1-2 match point against me. Again, on his ground, but he's grinning now. Breathing hard, alive in a way I don't think he's been in years. And when he steps back, he says, "There he is. Now show me the rest." He's not trying to humiliate me, he's asking me to be worthy of the fight. Nobody's ever done that either, so I show him the rest. All of it. Here's the thing about a ground built to trap you. It traps the other man too, and I've spent a lifetime turning terrain into a weapon. Even terrain chosen by my enemy. The walls the house put up to steal my distance I use. I put a bolt off the arena wall at an angle no duelist reads, because no duelist has ever had to think about a wall, and it comes at Raven from a line his wards aren't facing, and he has to spend real mana to cover it. And spending it costs him the half-beat I've been hunting all match. In that half-beat, I do the thing Lyra and I drilled 100 times. The shot you make alone when your second gun isn't there. I read the mana, I part the ward, I tap him clean. Horn sounds. 2-2. The arena that was built to bury me just handed me the point. The house really should have asked a sniper what he does with walls. Dead silence. Then the stands come apart, because everyone came to watch a genius put the charity boy down on stacked ground. And instead they're watching the charity boy stand toe-to-toe with the one cadet nobody's ever beaten on that same stacked ground. 2-2. One touch from the top of the world. 2-2. One touch decides the top of the wall, and Raven and I both know the next exchange is the last one. He gathers himself, and so do I. And in the space before we move, I read him completely. 3 years of never being pushed left one habit in him, one place his layered wards open when he commits fully. A seam a lesser fighter would never find, and I found it because finding seams is the only thing I've ever been. I can take it. I know exactly how to take it. And here's my choice. In the half second before the last exchange, I could take it cheap. There's a way to end this that makes Raven look like every other lord I've put down. Exploit the seam cruel, sell it ugly, humiliate the genius on his own ground for the biggest spectacle the Academy's ever seen. Stomp him flat and take the top of the wall standing over a broken man. The crowd would lose its mind. It'd be the most total face slap of my life. And it would make me exactly the thing I refused to become for Darius, except worse, because Darius earned it, and Raven hasn't. Raven's not a tormentor. Raven's the first honest man I've faced in this whole rotten place. He rigged nothing. He fought me clean and asked me to be worthy of it. So I don't take it cheap. The truly stronger man is the one who can afford not to. I take the seam clean. I read the last strike, I part the last ward, and I put the bolt exactly where it wins, and nowhere that shames him. A clean, precise, respectful touch. Dead center, the shot of an equal and not an executioner. The horn sounds 3-2. It's over. On the ground the house built to break me, against the one cadet nobody's ever beaten. In front of the whole kingdom, I win. Clean. And the top line of the wall that had my name scraped at the very bottom 6 months ago is mine. Raven stands there, not on his knees. I'd never put him there. He's not a Darius, just standing, breathing hard, looking at the mark on his chest, and then at me. And what's in his face isn't the thing I put in Darius's. It's not defeat, it's recognition. The recognition of one man for his equal, the first he's ever had. He crosses the arena, and he does the thing Darius couldn't. He puts out his hand. 3 years, Raven says, and you're the first person who ever made me feel like I was in a fight. He grips my hand, hard, honest. You didn't beat me because they rigged the ground. You beat me because you're better than the ground. Better than the rig, better than anything they could build to stop you. I've been alone at the top a long time. A real smile. The first honest thing anyone at the top of this place has ever offered me. It's good to finally have someone up here worth standing next to. I take his hand because this is the other kind of victory. Not the one that makes a man look up, the one that makes a man look across. After 6 months of climbing out of the dark to settle a score, I find I've climbed into something I never expected at the top. An equal. A friend maybe if either of us knew how to have one. In the high stands, Duke Roland Wayland watched the charity boy shake hands with the one cadet the house had staked everything on, and understood that he had lost, not a duel, not a trial, but the entire long war he'd waged in the dark for a year. He had spent the true weight of his house to break a child, and the child had climbed over all of it, and taken the top of the wall in the open, on the Duke's own rigged ground, with the crown's men watching and the whole kingdom on its feet. There was nothing left to whisper, nothing left to rig. The natural order Roland had spent 30 years defending had just been rewritten by a commoner in front of every peer in the realm, and everyone had seen it. And a few seats down, his own son Darius watched the boy take the summit and felt, to his own surprise, something clean and unfamiliar move in his chest. Not the hatred he'd nursed for 6 months, but the quiet, grudging pride of a man watching the better one win the thing he was too well born ever to have earned himself. They re-ink the slab that night, and the whole Academy comes to watch. And this time there's no whisper about what it'll say, because 2,000 people just watched it earned. Kale first on the wall. From 200th of 200 to the very top, in half a year, dead last to dead first, a charity boy's name carved twice the height at the summit of a wall that had scraped it at the bottom, where the light doesn't reach. The score I came into this body to settle is settled. Every hand that was ever raised against me is accounted for. The hounds broken and scattered, the schemers disgraced, the Duke beaten in the open, and Darius who ordered me left for paperwork, somewhere in the stands looking not up at me. And not away, but across, the way the rest of them are finally learning to. I said that first cold night in the bottom bunk that I'd climb this wall and reverse the order on it and leave them looking up. I did, but somewhere in the climbing it stopped being only about them. The boy whose body this is wanted the top of the wall to prove he mattered. I took it to prove something bigger, that the people the world scrapes to the bottom aren't the bottom, that a family of the thrown away can climb over a great house and a genius both. That blood was never the thing, and never will be. The crew finds me at the slab, and there's a triumph in it too big for words. First on the wall. All of us carved into the light now. Every name that was once scraped at the bottom climbed into the top 100 beside mine. We did it. From the gutter to the summit. Together. But I look at the number a long moment, and past the slab north, and I feel the shape of what's left. Because taking the top of the wall was the whole plan for 6 months, and it hasn't been the whole story since a valley in the snow. The score is settled. The wall is climbed. And out past the fence, the thing that killed Fen is still coming south, and the kingdom that just watched me take the summit still believes it's safe. I climbed this wall to settle a score. Now I've got the top of it, a family, a gift, and an equal at my side. And one thing left that the board could never measure, that the whole climb was only ever preparing me for. There's a war coming, and I'm the only one at the top of this wall who's ready for it. They graduate us on a bright cold morning in the yard beneath the great slab, and the whole academy stands in ranks to watch the wall decide our lives. This is what the whole thing was for in the end, not the tournament, not the trials. The wall. Final rank decides your commission, where you go, what you command, whose regiment you lead into the kingdom's wars. The masters read the names from the top down, and the top name carved twice the height of any other, in fresh-cut stone where the morning light hits it first, KL. 6 months ago I stood in this same yard in bandages and read that name scraped at the very bottom, where a boy has to crouch in the shadow to find it. 200th of 200. Today the whole academy stands at attention while it's read from the top. First, before every lord and heir and blood-blessed son of a great house on the wall. The charity case. The dead soldier's dead son. Dead last. Now dead first. Down the ranks, 5 faces I'd know anywhere are watching me hear it. Garen grinning wide and a little disbelieving. Lyra with her chin up. Pip already crying and pretending he isn't. Teo still as ever, Mila wearing the small, tired smile of someone who kept a boy alive long enough to reach this exact morning. We started at the bottom of this wall together. We're standing at the top of it together. That's the only part of the ceremony that matters to me. Years from now, the academy would tell this story to every new class of frightened first years on their first cold night. The boy who came in at the very bottom, beaten half to death, a charity name nobody expected to survive the winter, who climbed the whole wall in half a year to stand at the top of it. It would leave out the parts that shamed the school, the beating behind the armory, the rigged trials, the Duke's long quiet war. The child who died in Sector 9 because the men in charge would rather call a war bad weather. They would keep the clean version, the legend, because that is what academies do with the things they were too small to see coming. But the cadets who were actually there who watched a boy at the bottom of the wall refuse to stay there, they would tell it true, in lowered voices, the way you tell a thing that changed what you believed was possible. The charity boy. Dead last to dead first. The one the wall couldn't hold down. Then they read the rest, and I get to watch my family collect the lives they earned. Garen graduates high, the ox they flogged for being a monster, called up now for the heavy line, a place where a wall of a man who'll never break is worth his weight in gold. The boy who spent his life terrified of his own strength stands there and hears his name read with respect, and I watch him understand, finally, all the way down, that he was never a curse. He was always a shield. Nobody is ever going to make him eat his supper off a floor again. Pip graduates top of the engineers, the tinker they mocked for being useless, now the most sought-after mind in his year. Every commander in the army wants the boy who can build anything and outthink a battlefield supply before the fighting even starts. Useless, they called him. He's going to spend a whole career proving them wrong on a scale they can't imagine. Lyra graduates a real officer on her own merit, ranked high by a hand that never once cheated for her. The fallen house that had nothing for 3 generations has a daughter with a commission and a name she earned herself, not the one the Duke offered to buy back. The better one, the one that's hers. She kept the name Stray and got the name Vaunt back anyway, and this time it means something. Because she made it mean something. Teo graduates into the Army Scouts, the mute border boy they told to disappear. Now the eyes the frontier can't do without, and there's a cruel, perfect justice in it, because the border they exiled him from is the border the kingdom is about to need him to read. Told to vanish. Instead, he became the one man they can't afford to lose sight of. Mila graduates a commissioned field surgeon, the healer's apprentice they treated as furniture, now an officer in her own right, with the authority to make the lords she used to stitch in silence stand still and do as she says. Every charity boy she ever patched, every life she kept breathing in the dark, the academy's finally putting a rank on it. Furniture doesn't save lives. Mila does, and now it's on the record. Down the line she catches my eye, and beside her Lyra mouths 2 words, dead first, with a fierce, disbelieving joy in it. From a girl who 3 seasons ago wouldn't have wagered a copper on any of us seeing a commission at all. We were the 6 lowest names on this wall. Every one of us just graduated into the light. And here's the thing the masters didn't expect. Every one of them earned a commission that could scatter them across the kingdom, their own postings, their own commands, their own way up. Every one of them turns it down to stay astray. I didn't ask. I never ask. They just don't intend to do the next part of their lives without each other, and neither do I. Because I'm posted to the one place that matters now, and they've decided that's where they're going too. Because the crown at last is looking north. Fenn's death did what all of Corvin's warnings couldn't. Somewhere above the academy, someone with a map and a cold feeling finally counted the silent villages and the vanishing patrols, and stopped calling it bandits. The frontier commands are being filled, quietly, urgently, with the few soldiers the kingdom has who understand what's coming. And the top graduate of the academy, the commoner who already fought them in a valley in the snow and won, gets the posting nobody else is ready for. The northern line, The edge of the war. I take it. Of course I take it. It's the thing the whole climb was secretly for. Corvin finds me before we ride out. He's in a field officer's colors instead of a rangemaster's gray, because the old man requested the frontier too. One more war, he says, and he's not about to let the boy he trained walk into it without him. He looks at me a long moment, this hard old commoner who rose on skill 30 years ago and saw the same in a broken child at the bottom of a wall when nobody else bothered to look. I've trained a lot of officers, he says. Watched most of them learn that war isn't a game the hard way, in the field with men dying to teach them. A pause. You already knew. I still don't know how, but I know this. The kingdom's about to be very glad you did. He almost smiles. Whatever you were before you woke up in that lazarette, boy, and I've never asked, and I never will. You're the best soldier I've ever trained, and you got that way by refusing to stay at the bottom of a wall that wanted to keep you there. Don't you ever forget you did that yourself. I don't tell him what I was. I never will. But I let the old man be proud, because he earned it, and because he's the closest thing to a father either of us, me or the boy, has had in this life. Darius is waiting at the gate when we ride out. Not to gloat. Those days are buried in the dirt of the model ground. The day he knelt and looked up and found respect where his contempt used to be. He graduates into his father's house, heir still, but I can see something's changed in him all the way down. He watched the house win the only way it knows how, by cheating a boy it couldn't beat, and it broke something clean in him that no defeat of mine ever could. My father held the house at the top by making sure people like you never got a fair fight. Darius says, I'm gonna hold it a different way. He doesn't explain, and he doesn't have to. A Wayland heir who's decided the natural order is a lie he was told is a more dangerous thing to that order than I ever was. You beat me fair, he says every time, even when I didn't deserve fair. He puts out his hand, the one he wouldn't take on the model ground. Go win the war, Charity. I'll fix things here. I take his hand. The Svita who beat me behind an armory a lifetime ago are scattered at the bottom of the wall now, looking up at a name they'll never reach, and their ringleader is shaking my hand at the gate as an equal. That's the score, settled all the way through, not one of them broken cruel, all of them simply finally beneath a thing they used to think they stood above. Raven's already mounted when I reach the column, because of course he is. The lone genius who never needed anyone, who sat alone at the top of the wall for 3 gray years. He requested the frontier the day after I did. When I ask him why, he shrugs. I spent 3 years looking for a fight worth having and never found one, he says. Then you gave me one. And now there's a whole war of them coming, and the only person alive worth standing next to is riding straight into it. A rare, real smile. Someone has to make sure you don't die doing something clever. Might as well be the second best shot in the kingdom. Second best, I agree. And he laughs, and it's the sound of a man who forgot he could. The summit past the summit isn't alone anymore. Turns out all the top of the wall was ever missing was someone to share it with. As the column forms up, I catch a knot of first years at the edge of the yard, watching us go the smallest and poorest of them, the charity intakes, the ones who sleep in the cold corners now. They're looking at the strays the way I once looked up at a name at the top of a wall I thought I'd never touch. One of them, a skinny boy who can't be more than 9, meets my eye and doesn't look away. I give him a nod. Climb it, kid. It's yours if you want it badly enough. I did, and I started lower than you. We ride out through the gate. The boy whose body this is was carried through half dead a lifetime ago, and I look back one time at the great slab, at my name carved twice the height at the very top where the morning light hits it first. 6 months. That's all it took. 6 months ago I woke in a broken 10-year-old body at the very bottom of that wall, beaten half to death, alone, a charity name nobody would miss, in the coldest corner of the barracks, with a whole academy that had agreed not to see me. No mana, no money, no friends, no name worth keeping, and one cold plan: climb the wall, settle the score, make them look up. I did all of it. And somewhere in the doing it became so much more than the plan. The boy whose body this is, the real Kale, the one who cried alone at the scraps table because his father was dead and no one came. He wanted the top of the wall to prove he was worth something. I want you to know, kid, wherever whatever's left of you can hear it, you were always worth something. You were worth a family that chose ruin over leaving you. You were worth an old soldier's pride, a duke's whole house thrown at stopping you, and a genius riding to war just to stand beside you. You were never the charity case at the bottom of the wall. You were always the thing that climbed it. I only borrowed your hands long enough to show the world what you already were. There's a war out there. I've known it since a set of tracks past a marker fence, since a valley in the snow, since a 10-year-old named Fen died to teach a kingdom a lesson it still barely wants to learn. It's coming south, and it's going to be worse than anyone at the top is ready for. But it isn't a shadow looming over the end of my story with more chapters hiding behind it. It's the reason the story happened at all. The wall was never the point. The wall was the forge. It took a beaten charity boy at the bottom of everything and made him into the one man in the kingdom ready to stand in front of what's coming, and gave him a family to stand there with. I'm not afraid of it. I climbed out of a grave to get here. I've got a thimble of mana aimed like a blade, 5 people the world threw away who'd walk into fire at a word, an equal at my side, a mentor at my back, and a whole war ahead whose shape I already know. I take one last look at the wall, my name at the top, the hounds scraped at the bottom looking up. The strays' names climbed into the light beside mine. Everything I built out of the people nobody wanted, all of it settled, all of it earned, all of it mine. Then I turned my horse north. The first time I had a squad I died covering it, alone in the mud with no one left to cover me. Not this time. This time I've got 5 people who'd walk through fire at a word, an equal riding at my shoulder, an old soldier at my back, and a family that chose me over everything the world could offer them to leave. That's where this ends. Not on a shadow on the horizon, not on a war still to fight, but on a boy who was thrown away standing at the very top of everything that threw him, surrounded by the people who chose him, ready for whatever comes. Dead last all the way to dead first, and never alone again.